This conference will now be recorded.
To order, please stand as we have the invocation, pledge of allegiance. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for this day. Thank you for the wonderful town that we live in. Help us to have your vision. Help us to make wise decisions about our future. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I need a motion for agenda approval. There's a motion and a second to approve the agenda. Do I have a motion? Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. Motion carries. Minutes approval for September 5th, 2023 planning and zoning meeting. Motion to approve the minutes.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes, September 5th.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Any opposed, no. Motion carries. Public comments on agenda items only.
Harry Coleman, 10th Avenue North. I'd like to speak about the comprehensive plan, particularly the mixed use. I've been going around campaigning for the last week or so, and I've asked a lot of residents, how do you feel about mixed use? First I get a contorted face, and then I explain to them, basically what I understand is it'll be like storefronts and apartment dwelling above it, or something similar to that, condos, whatever. And they all look at me and go, why would we ever do that? Why would we do that in this town? You know, in the comprehensive plan, it's described as unique urban concept. Urban, that's the word that gets everything. And if you look at it, you know, a city or town can be urban, but I don't think anybody who lives here really feels that they live in an urban setting. Small town, beautiful town, paradise, not urban. A lot of us have escaped from that urban city type of concept. Also on page 31, it says the mixed use is going to be north of Popular. I don't know where north of Popular is. It should be either east or west of Popular. So north of Popular, not good. Also, and I didn't realize it until somebody pointed out to me, the mixed urban concept village would be also at, from, say, the E District, south to 3rd Avenue South, and from, I believe, Yaupon to the ocean. Now, I know some of you live right there, right in the smack, in the middle of your residential area. I don't know if you'd really like an urban setting. With mixed use, parking. One of the biggest problems we have in this town is parking. There is no place to park. Even if you put it on Surfside Drive, there's not enough parking for the restaurants that are here. for the bars that are here. It's a dream that really can't be done unless you're gonna put up a multi-story parking garage. Oh my God, that's like screaming urban. And apartment dwellers, that's fine. But people who own property usually treat it a little bit better than renters. I mean, I'm not against renters, but if you own something, you're gonna keep it nice. If you rent it, I'm not gonna keep it as nice. So I really don't think mixed use is the best way to go. Instead of going, look at something that is 5 miles, 10 miles up the road, Market Common, why don't we just head down this way, head to the south, Litchfield. It's beautiful. Why don't we do something like that? Why don't we get rid of that stupid frontage road and put up landscaping and trees and offset so you don't see all these businesses, but you'll have signs, everyone knows where to go, and people will actually like that. Have a rental unit there. They'd love to have a store there, which it invites people. It looks nice. This 50s landscaping out here, the way it looks, it's not a good fix for this town. It's in the past. Thank you.
Thank you.
Since we started campaign mode, I'll
Name and
Rob Kraus,
address.
4th Avenue North. And since we started that, I'll mention I've been out campaigning as well. And I've talked to a few people, and I wouldn't say it's quite as negative a response as what Harry just said, but my viewpoint and what I've basically heard expressed is extreme caution. We don't want a Market Common. We're not big enough for that. And I think maybe in a very small area, it could be practical, but I don't see how that works in Surfside. And quite frankly, after watching, what we've managed through with the pier and so forth, I'm not confident we can pull it off. And even if I'm elected, I'm not sure I want to deal with it. I will if that's what comes about. But I've also heard, I think, extreme caution from you folks. And I've been to several of these meetings over the last 6 months or so. And no criticism of our consultant, but it seems like this mixed use is getting pushed pretty hard. And I want to advise extreme caution on your part. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comments? Thank you. Next is the director's report. Obviously, looking like we'll be having that tonight. Nothing, no business. I'll go right to discussion. Jake with Stewart is here to review and discuss the updated draft of the comprehensive plan. So Jake, I will turn it over to you.
Hello again.
Hello.
Good to see y'all. Just got a few slides and then we can get into discussion. So a little quick overview, what is a comprehensive plan? It's a shared vision for the long-term future of Surfside Beach. It's a guide to help prioritize investments. It's a tool for decision makers, including you all, and also the town council. It's a guide to achieve a common set of goals, and it's a requirement by the state of North Carolina communities that use land use regulations to have an updated comprehensive plan. So it's a good idea, but it's also required. So that's why we're doing it. But it does have a number of elements. Just going to hit a couple of highlights here. The population element that talks about kind of the historical and potential future population of Surfside. I think that one of the goals there is to foster a family-oriented destination and also manage impacts of visitors on Surfside Beach. Land use, we talked about some things, one of which is relative land values across the town. This is an important piece of the tax base, but you do have some really low land values and some underutilized land along US 17 that we talked about. Another thing that I want to just mention is on the community survey, we did ask what type of commercial development do you think that Surfside Beach needs, and small scale retail services and restaurants was by far the most important thing that folks said there. The land use map is an important part of the comprehensive plan. It kind of guides future development pattern and rezonings and development design and that sort of thing. It really can find its way into zoning decisions and that sort of thing. Zoning is like the details, and the future land use map is kind of a bigger picture thing. This was the version that was presented on 9.5, and I think that heard loud and clear that there's a little too much mixed use. We're kind of cautious. We need to be more cautious about mixed use. The revised version shrinks a lot of that mixed use really off the west side of US 17, and also convert some of that to a light industrial category that is more representative of kind of what's out there right now, a mix of kind of flex businesses and kind of light industrial uses along Sandy Lane and other areas. So that was kind of this is the new version. Sorry, this is the new version. So we did kind of shrink a lot of that, but this is a work in progress, and if you all kind of want to provide some direction, I mean, we can shrink that further. I mean, there's no no hard feelings on our part. I think we're just pointing out the fact that you haven't had a lot of investment on US 17, and you have a lot of unutilized properties that are likely to stay that way, or you're likely to get low quality proposals of strict commercial or that sort of thing that's still going to add traffic. So adding a mixed use option, low density, very low density mixed use option would provide potential some opportunity for investment in some of those kind of older shopping centers and parking lots and storage areas, stuff like that. So, but we also changed the Pier Village, or the E-District, to the Pier Village, because we're going with that nomenclature, not calling it the E-District anymore, the Pier Village. So we did change that. We can come back to this, but I want to kind of flip through a couple other things. On the map, each color represents a character area, and these descriptions kind of talk about the predominant uses and some of the shared design characteristics of those different areas. All these kind of stayed the same, except for, again, the Pier Village. It was called the E-District. We're calling it the Pier Village now. And we added a light industrial category that just says it includes small fabrication shops, warehouses, including mini storage, because there was a question about where should mini storage go. And right now, there's we need to provide some guidance in the land use plan on that. So that's kind of the changes there. On the other revisions, future land use map I mentioned, the added light industrial character area, reduced the amount of neighborhood mixed use, and changed the E-District to the Pier Village. There are still some text edits, and some of y'all commented on that. There was still some references to an E-District in other parts of the plan, and we did change that as well, but weren't able to get you an updated version of that. But it's a number among the comments and edits that we're making. A couple other comments from you all. One was on financial stress, kind of financial resiliency. The understanding that there's going to be financial stresses on the town in the future. This plan does talk about a lot of things that we want to do in order to preserve or enhance the quality of life, things like sidewalks and improving parks and that sort of thing. But we also need to balance that with investment and investment that generates taxes and revenue. So in order to kind of balance the budget, so to speak. So that's something that I forget who said it and whether they're here or not, but feel free to kind of elaborate on that if you want. And then another thing, parking. We do need to probably review parking requirements. Something another development came up, and just I think it's mentioned in the plan, but I wanted to kind of put it in there to make sure that we're not under parking places or over parking, because if we require too much parking for certain uses, then that's related to that financial stress and resiliency. Parking is, if it's not used, it's one of the lowest value uses in your town, and you only have so much in it. Land use goals. There were some comments on the goals. Goal number 3 under land use was provide for areas of mixed use and promote a village concept along the town's major corridors. And maybe you need to remove the word urban, like just a village concept. If it's low density, more kind of traditional kind of town scale, village scale. But somebody suggested, I would suggest the words explore limited areas or provide for. So that could be a way that we kind of move it to more of a, if certain conditions exist or maybe applicable or okay in a limited basis for that kind of walkable village scale mixed use. Goal 5, protect the aesthetics and functionality of the US 17 corridor. And a suggestion was to replace protect with improve the aesthetics and functionality of the US 17 corridor, which I think makes sense because there are some parts of the corridor that have improved and look nice, and then there's some other ones that do need to be improved significantly. So I think that makes sense. On the housing side, there was just some questions about goal number 2, allowing a diversity of housing options. Not sure if this should be a goal or should we de-emphasize that sort of thing. So those were your comments on the goals. Under the economic development goals, there was some suggestions. One suggestion to move goal number 1 to goal number 6. So that position Surfside Beach to benefit from the regional Grand Strand economy, to move that to the end. And then another suggestion to move goal number 5, which is promoting tourism while preserving established residential neighborhoods, to goal number 1. And again, these don't necessarily indicate priority, but just order of operations and moving things that are more important up. I think that makes sense. So we can kind of talk about that too if you need to. Specifics. This is something that kind of we heard in a couple comments. We just need more specifics. People like the idea of supporting bicycle and pedestrian friendly town, but we need to be a little bit more specific on how we're going to do that. So are we going to create annual milestones to add sidewalks or build bike lanes or whatever it is? But we do want a little bit more specifics. And I think that's part of, in addition to kind of just revisions and talking through some issues, I would like to hear from you all on 1 or 2 priorities that you really want to get a little bit more specific on, you really want to provide a little bit more detail on, because we do have one more element that we have to draft, and that is the priority investment element. And that is the list really by topic area, where we can put a little bit more emphasis on a few things in each element. It doesn't have to be every element, but I think you get what I'm saying. If we think something's really important, then we can provide a little bit more detail in there in terms of next steps, and provide kind of an estimate in terms of cost or level of effort it's going to take in order to get that. So it could be related to sidewalks, it could be related to underground and utilities, it could be related to financial resiliency, or something like that. But that's something that I do want some discussion on kind of towards the end here. On the natural resources and resiliency side, it was also suggested that we need something specific about dredging in Lake Dogwood and Elizabeth. It's a stormwater capacity issue. And this map just shows kind of the drainage areas that are kind of coming into Surfside Beach and then going to the ocean. And you see the black line is the town's town limits. And you see a couple of those drainage areas, those watersheds, extend well beyond to the west of the town limits.
All the way to the bypass.
Right. So it's tricky because we have to, we're downhill, even though there's not a big hill. We're kind of downhill, and we have to kind of inherit and deal with what is upstream. And that includes stormwater from a capacity perspective. That also includes sedimentation. When there is land development that occurs, or when there is removal of tree cover, there is an increased amount of sediment that finds its way into a lot of ways. And you all just are positioned in the good place by the beach, but also near the outfalls, and you're going to have to deal with that sedimentation. So we can do what we can inside the town limits, and we do have recommendations about preservation of tree canopy, and really looking at kind of the lake edge and areas around the lake in order to make sure that we're monitoring it and reducing impacts locally. But even still, even if we do a great job inside the town limits, we're going to have to deal with what's coming down from upstream. So yeah, I'd love to kind of go back and talk about different hot topics. But just kind of wanted to touch a little bit on next steps. Review, comment on the plan is kind of the next steps. And, we'll be available for public comment as well. Make revisions, and any revisions that we make, we could, keep track of and make sure that we can tell the story of what has been changed. Eventually, we do need to do a public open house though, to kind of talk through the plan, what's in there, what's not, and some highlights. So we need to kind of find a date for that. And then make some more revisions, and that would be considered by you all for consideration by the town council, or consideration for revisions, and then they would have their opportunity to review and revise and then adopt the plan. So that's kind of big picture of the next steps, but we're happy to kind of go back and talk more about individual pieces or issues. And it could be kind of a, just like last time, it could be kind of a nuts and bolts thing in terms of, on this page, we need to fix this, or it could be kind of more general. I mean, the two big general comments, I think, or three big kind of topic areas. One would be kind of the goals and what to do about kind of the housing goal. Are you okay with moving the order of operation, those edits? The other one is the mixed use. Just what are we going to say about mixed use in this plan? And I think, there's a lot of different ways we can go. We can shrink the footprint of the mixed use more. We can clarify what we mean by it in terms of low density, village scale, really an alternative to big box, commercials or underdeveloped land, underutilized land, in order to encourage investments at the scale of Surfside in particular areas. Or we can just leave it as an idea and take it off the map, and we can just replace it, with general commercial, and we can still. Then we can discuss whether to leave a recommendation there to consider mixed use or not. You still have a mixed use zoning district in your code. It's not been used. It would need to be updated if you want it used. So that's kind of where we're at there. And then the third kind of topic area is really the priority investment element. And what are some big priorities that we really want to see move forward. So that's kind of the three topics. I'll kind of turn it over to y'all, and we can have a discussion.
What I want to try to do, Jake, is go one by one, starting with population. As we go down these plan goals, if everybody's got each section, I'll call it. Much like population, our number one goal is to support Surfside Beach's year-round population. Basically, promote quiet, safe, clean, green neighborhoods that foster livability and distinguish the town from other communities.
Page 24.
Page 22.
Oh, 22.
Sorry.
Thank you.
Yeah, protect the character and density of long-established residential neighborhoods through land use regulations, decisions and enforcement of activities. Goal 2 is foster a family-oriented vacation destination. Page 23. Ensure that the beachfront and adjacent blocks remain predominantly residential. Character while providing clusters of commercial and recreational activities adjacent to the pier. Continue to limit height limits on hotels and other structures along the ocean front to preserve view sheds and maintain the sense of a small town and coastal community. Goal 3, monitor and successfully manage the impacts of an increased number of day visitors to Surfside Beach. That one I had to give pause to, though the rest of them we do a good job of. But how do we manage the impacts of day visitors?
don't increase parking dramatically.
Well, I think that was the key. I mean, we now are selling 150, 200.
They upped the number that we were selling.
So now we have 200 or 300 people who don't, 150?
No, we have 600 parking spaces.
Right. Okay. How many, yeah, how many parking passes do we sell?
Downtown is 150,
150. Okay.
which is roughly 25%.
Yeah.
Any increase in passes or in parking areas in general is just going to encourage day visitors. Pretty soon, our beach is going to be Coney Island, and then the people who come for a week and spend $10,000 will go elsewhere.
Any other? I went through population, just kind of skirted most of the high points here. Any other thoughts? That, obviously from 22 to 24, any big issues that you see, or you think that looks pretty good?
I mean, if there is a concern about the number of parking passes, we can mention something like that. I mean, I think that.
Well, the only reason I say that, and I'm not really picking on people who live across the street, I'm just, tell me a better way to manage your day trippers besides not selling passes. I don't know. That's what I'm trying to figure out. If that's a goal,
I think what we were thinking in the earlier discussions, I think it was like three meetings ago, is understanding usage, understanding visitation was kind of a need, because we didn't really know visitation trends in terms of outside folks. So that was what the first strategy was really about. And there you can get cell phone data and kind of understand, visitation, not only to the beach area, but also to 17 to understand potential opportunities for, commercial, retail, or whatever it is. So it's I think that's how we did it. But we did also, have a strategy about signage and public parking and beach access. We said, improving wayfinding and educational materials, but we could also, put something in there about, maintain, ratio of in-town and out of town passes, or, think very carefully about changing the, increasing it or whatever, whatever it is. But we did talk about user fees and usage and monitoring that to make sure that we, are finding the right balance around the pier as well.
Well, I think you hit it. The balance is key, because we have a lot of paid parking lots, and obviously we want to try to maximize those percentages in those parking lots. I don't think we want to run 40%.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a revenue, and I think what we're trying to shoot for, I think 92%. So there's
and that's hourly too. So you have hourly.
So many factors, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think we don't know the current usage yet, right? Like the pier is so new, and we don't know if we're doing it right yet. So that's why that last recommendation is really about monitoring it and make sure that we find the right balance.
Michael?
Mr. Chair, I'll take ownership for that one a little bit, because I was pretty heavy on cell phone data. But I agree, I don't know how we can manage it without getting our hands on the data. I'd like to get a goal that specifically says, hey, council, hey, future commissions, hey, when you guys are budgeting for the town, keep this in mind. That we need to get some kind of information so we can manage the impacts. Because maybe I just don't know that we have enough information to say, hey, here's how many people are actually stopping on the 7 corridor. And we do a terrible job of telling people that there's parking lots tucked away all over town. I mean, if I go to the pier when it opens up and I see that every parking space is full, what am I going to do? I'm not going to know that there's another parking lot 30 feet behind me, or another one that's 60 feet behind that, or one that's 3 avenues up, or there's all these overflow places. I'm going to go parking someone's side, which is what I see a lot. Side by side. I'll take ownership for that one a little bit, because I was pretty hard headed on that. But that was kind of my big thing, and this is outside of you, Jake, and your firm, but when the SCDOT came in to review the channelization project 17, we had very, very minimal information on that. We just didn't, I think we were given like a legal size document with what the final project was gonna look like. We didn't have any traffic studies or anything that SCDOT provided us that I was aware of. So it's just frustrating trying to figure out what we were approving on the 17 corridor. So maybe not just cell phone data, but maybe just general reports. How much you'd rather be scratching?
Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir.
So when I did a citizen ride along with the cops, we have that new system that tracks license plates. So I'm not sure if some way that the police chief could recognize just the actual license plates in town, and when somebody triggers that comes into our town out of those license plates, if it could give us a list of information. I'm not sure. I don't know if it's capable of that or not.
Yeah, I think without the infrastructure set up, like with toll road or something like that, that's pretty difficult to do. I mean, do license plates and stuff, could for parking and that sort of thing, but without that, the cell phone data really is the current state of the practice related to kind of understanding, what do they call it? External trips or origin destination trips on a corridor or in a locale. So it could be done on 17. They can pull cell phone records from folks on 17 or in a location. So like in the town center or in the Pier Village, and provide a report based on that. That's really the current state of the practice. There's other things you can do that are more analog in terms of monitoring usage of parking. I mean, that's a whole another thing that could be something that the staff takes on, or you hire out, or whatever it is. But to monitor usage and kind of trying to right size usage of the area and the parking in the Pier Village, that would be kind of a separate thing that could have a more analog solution.
Well, I think too, we're talking about under strategy 3B, it says improve wayfinding and educational materials related to beach and parking and beach access. I think this is a really good tool to educate people. So when they come to town, they can look it up and say, well, there's no parking up here. I'm gonna get down to 13th Avenue, or I'm gonna go to 7th Avenue. Use these tools, and I think it saves a lot of frustration for day trippers, and then I think that's a good way for us to be able to track, or at least educate people, we got more than just one parking lot. Or or if you're in a golf cart, here's your designated golf cart parking places.
Yeah, and you'll have some materials on the website. I mean, you have, you have a lot of information on parking on your website, but there's a static map. Could you have like an online map or something that you can access easily via cell phone? Could you do some type of real-time monitoring? Yeah, like you were saying, in terms of like where are the available parking? Probably, so there's some options there, and I think that something that the town has leaned into, even over the last couple of years. I mean, I guarantee you a lot of that information up there is born out of need and people wanting to know, but there's always an opportunity to improve.
Any other thoughts on the population? All right, well, let's move to a very popular land use. We've seen some of the maps, and I think we've let me stick to what I was doing. Our first goal for land use is promote and maintain Surfside Beach as a residential beach community, and evaluate land use decisions for their impact on housing and the quality of life enjoyed by the town citizens. Maintain the general framework of current zoning and regulations that preserve the character of the town as a residential beach community. Consider impacts on existing residents, town character, and the environmental during land use and development decisions. Consider target ordinance amendments to implement recommendations from this plan. So I think basically our first goal is protect our community, protect our citizens that have invested in properties here in Surfside Beach. You guys just, I'm gonna go through these and stop me whenever you feel the urge. I see one coming on, Scott.
I'm holding back. The opportune moment.
I hear you. One that I had down, enforce property maintenance standards designed to protect residential property values, page 33. Strategy 1C, evaluate all rezoning and special exemption petitions for their potential to negatively impact adjacent residential properties.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
all this enforced stuff is just fine, but the reality is we don't have the manpower. I had an incident just this past Thursday where exactly at 5 p.m., 5 trucks with the Bobcat, chipper, and everything else pulled up to a neighbor's house and proceeded to tear the hell out of that yard. I immediately sent an email to Sabrina, who passed it on to the building inspector, and he came on Monday and couldn't really see anything, but he's been here a month. So he doesn't know what it looked like before. But, anyway, these people know to come on Sunday morning or 5 o'clock, and until we can somehow deal with that, this enforcement stuff is just nice theory. That's all I have.
And I'll point to the priority investment element. If there is something related to staffing need, that could be included in terms of enforcement, specifically related to enforcement there. And whether that's a half position, I don't know but I could work with, Daryl and Sabrina and raise that as an issue, and they could give me some recommendations on how to translate that into the priority investment.
Have enough staff to have some weekend and evening patrols or somebody at least available to come running.
Well, I know at one time on the weekends, and I know these guys are awful busy, but police officers being on the street, probably 3 to 4 of them making their rounds, just being aware of what's going on and what time it's going on. As understaffed as we are, I don't know any other options.
I don't see much point in betting a lot of enforced goals either.
Yeah, I've always said you can't enforce it, there's no point in having it. All right.
Words.
Yeah, 34 sounds good. Strategy 2B, protect areas designated as low density. Restrict housing to single family detached units at densities less than 5 dwellings per acre. Generally lots are greater than 9,000 square feet. Allow only long-term rentals, prohibit short-term rentals. I don't think that's not in R3.
Yeah, I'll just add that this is really talking about your existing zoning structure. You have low density areas, and that's where we want to kind of allow only long-term rentals and prohibit short terms. And then 2C talks about your medium density areas, and there's a little bit different, things there. But you're still doing some of the same things in terms of, allowing only long-term rentals and prohibiting short-term rentals. And then 2D is really about the high density, and that's where, you permit short-term rentals there, but you do want to discourage excessive height and encourage, new recreational facilities and certain types of development, allow tourist-related non-residential uses under very defined conditions. So that's kind of, this goal and these recommendations are really saying, like, your current zoning structure is good. Let's keep, that, because on the residential side, it's working very well. And you all have kind of spent a lot of time and attention in order to get it where it is.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
can we add R1, R2, R3 to the bolded titles of those sections? I just think it would make it more
It'd be
user-friendly.
clear.
Yeah, it makes sense. That makes sense.
I had to read through these 2 pages 2 or 3 times too. And then I agree with you, Jake. I was on the same page as you, but it took me a second to get there.
It says under 2D, it says discourage excessive structure height. Wondering what that,
We have some pretty tight.
we have set building height, so I was just wondering what the thought was behind discouraging excessive
If
structure height.
you all like where it is, we can just put in, parentheses,
Our ordinances have exact numbers.
include exact number, yeah.
There is no discouraging. It's 35 and 55. Thank you. Like I say, you guys stop me when you can. Goal 3, provide areas of mixed use and promote the urban village concept along the town's major corridors. Can you pull that map up again?
Yep.
So we can get a clearer.
Yeah. And, just to kind of, I didn't include it in this presentation, but some of this, came from your previous land use plan. There were some mixed use areas. If you recall, there were mixed use areas along Surfside Drive, and then the areas around the Pier Village were designated mixed use in your previous plan. We took off those mixed use areas from Surfside Drive because
Be clear about that again. What did you just say? I just want everybody to understand what you just said.
there was mixed use areas on your previous future land use map.
Okay.
Yeah. So we rolled a lot of that in here in terms of your residential zoning structure. So, your beachside residential, your quiet neighborhoods and medium density, all that comes, from the old plan and it went into your zoning code. So that's pretty much the same. This mixed use idea was in the previous plan, but we talked about it early on and said we do need to clarify it because it's not appropriate everywhere it was shown. It was shown on Surfside Drive, for instance. It was shown in a number of other places that we took off because Surfside Drive is primarily a residential street and we wanted to keep it that way. We did leave it down there around the Pier Village, but I don't, I'm fine if y'all want to take it away from there. That would be a low priority, I think, for just from a planning standpoint, because you already have kind of established footprint of non-residential uses in the Pier Village and residential uses. I think at the time of your last future land use map, there was some undeveloped land adjacent to the Pier Village or underutilized land adjacent to the Pier Village that has since been converted to newer residential. So that's the story there. It's still there on this map, but that would be kind of a low priority area other than, directly adjacent to the Pier Village or something like that. I mean, I don't think it's necessarily appropriate in some of those areas. So we could certainly change that. The 2 other areas, the town center area, neighborhood mixed use along 17, that is a mixed use area really that's centered around 2 of your major intersections. So that's where you have a lot of opportunity for accommodation of turn movements and stuff like that, and opportunity for retail and commercial and restaurants. And those are 2 that are going to be 2 of your more sought after locations for commercial and that sort of thing. Also, you have more transportation capacity. But the area, you know, kind of on either side of the town center, and it should read west of Poplar Drive. That's right. It should read west, even though this is kind of, it's northwest, but we can call it northwest. But that's an area where you do have some underutilized land. You have some areas that, you know, in your zoning code are your commercial, your highway commercial. And in some of those areas, it might be unlikely that you're going to fill all those areas with commercial. So the idea there would be to encourage investment, even if there's a couple, you know, residential dwelling units, as an incentive for investment to kind of clean up 17 and encourage, you know, some investment in some underutilized areas, both there and then also over kind of in the east, the northern side of 17. But again, we talked a lot about mixed use and what would be appropriate. I think that, you know, I think we heard and we talked about and kind of agreed that, you know, Market Commons is not really the scale of mixed use that's appropriate here. We're not talking about parking decks and that sort of thing. We're really talking more about like the hammock shops. If you're not familiar with it, you know, it's not, hammock shops are not just the shops. There's actually some residential behind the shops that are kind of part of that overall development. That was kind of a part of what made the hammock shops unique and viable as a development project, is to have some residential and commercial. So that's kind of the scale that we're talking about. There's also, you know, I really love the idea and the precedent of Litchfield. You know, there's one is the design of 17 along there, because you do have kind of the 17 corridor, and then you have kind of this green buffer, and you have a multi-use path that kind of snakes in between live oaks and that sort of thing. It really is probably the prettiest portion of 17, you know, on the Waccamaw Neck, you know, in my opinion. There's also, if you look closely, there is one or two buildings that are mixed use in the Litchford area. The one on the west side, or sorry, on the east side, that has a stormwater kind of pond with a fountain in the middle, in front of it, no parking in front of it. I think that actually is what makes it better, because I think y'all can improve is y'all have a lot of parking in front of all the buildings on 17. And a lot of development that was built, you know, 20 years ago, we didn't have the landscaping requirements that we do now. You know, now it would probably look better if you just do standard commercial. But you know, this building on down in Litchfield, you know, has a big porch, and it has shops on the bottom. And then on the second floor, there are some apartments, but you wouldn't know because it looks kind of like an old-timey shop or like a house, really. I mean, you know, but it has a commercial use in the bottom. So that's the scale that I think would be, you know, palatable in certain locations. But, you know, I don't think we're talking about, you know, 4 stories with a parking deck and, you know, and big apartments. I think that's what we heard loud and clear is like the scale of, but we don't need, you know, huge apartment complexes on 17. There's other places in Horry County that they are prevalent and loud. But that, anyway, that's kind of the history and what we've talked about and that sort of thing. But like I said, I mean, there's a lot of different ways to go about this. We could change all this neighborhood mixed use to just general residential along the 17 corridor, and still allow for the potential of mixed use somewhere, somehow. But I think the benefit of showing it in this place is we're putting a boundary on it. We're talking about what the scale would be appropriate, and using it as kind of a potential vehicle to encourage investment. It would still need a rezone, and it would still have to follow kind of your rules and regulations. So it would still be a legislative decision if, you know, you were to rezone to a mixed use district. So there would be a lot of, you know, decision points along that. But, you know, I think, you know, that's why I showed the earlier slide, though. There is, you know, a lot of underutilized properties. If you want to clean up US 17, you're not going to be able to do it by yourself. It's going to be, you know, through investment and through having new development, take an old shopping center and do something that cleans it up in the long run.
Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
why are we over-engineering a concept that's always been available, has never happened, and we say is unlikely to happen?
Well, I think that,
What I want is for it to come off the map entirely. The concept is available. If anybody brings us an idea, we'll consider it. But this slice and dice thing about where it might be, if it ever happened, is just, it's wasting time and it's upsetting people. It's all.
What were you gonna say, Jake?
I was just going to point out that, you all do have a large percentage of your jurisdiction zone general commercial. And that's not really what people want. People really don't want more, big box stores or that sort of thing. They're really looking for small scale stuff that you're not going to get under your current zoning. And even with, you do have the mixed use option in your zoning code, but it would need to be adjusted if it's going to be used because it's not really true mixed use. It's really more of a suburban zoning district that's not going to create the hammock shops. It's not going to create something for village scale, walkable, that's appropriate for Surfside. So if you do take it off the map, I would suggest we still leave it in some form or fashion as a recommendation to still address it, still keep talking about it. And then you can, still have it in there and keep talking about it. But I'm, fine with taking off the map. That's all up to y'all.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
may I speak?
Absolutely.
Thank you. I think originally the concern and the idea of mixed use, very, very limited mixed use, was to help clean up some of the 17, corridor there. And, letting the free market clean things up without having, to take away from other resources. I mean, it would be wonderful to have nice green trees and landscaping, and who's going to pay for it? Whereas if you have a very, very limited mixed use, and I thought about mixed use. I agree. I don't like the idea. The word urban just doesn't sound right for this small, wonderful town. I have my 86-year-old mother with me right now, which I'm grateful for. And she's going to spend some time with me. And I take her for a ride. She's like, "Are we going to go for a ride?" I'm like, "Okay." And she drives through Surfside. She says, "This is a charming town." I'm like, "You know what? It is a charming town." And she was born in, not to be too specific, 1936. And her parents had a mixed use. They bought a old school corner store, and they lived upstairs from it, one unit above this. And, it was a wonderful little thing, charming little, and it was an entrepreneurial type thing, letting just a limited opportunity, and maybe it's just for discussion in the future, but a limited opportunity to have, some bigger ideas of what we can do to make 17 a little more beautiful, I think is good to have it on the table. And I understand the pushback of, the idea of, we don't want Surfside to be market common. I understand that. But a lot of small towns have that concept from way back. Drive through a small town and there's a little shop, there's people living above it. And it makes the little town kind of charming, limited. Thank you.
Yeah, we talked about that as from a percentage standpoint, whether it be a 10-to-1 ratio or square footage. If you got a 4,000 square foot commercial building, you could do 400 square feet of residential. So I'm thinking anything, this is just my opinion, anything west of 17 should be residential. Anything east of 17, sorry.
That's you.
Oh.
Ocean side of 17.
Yeah, anything east of Highway 17 would be residential, and still leave a portion on the west side for the future. Like I say, I think I don't think it's developed on that side because I don't think we really tried very hard. And I really don't. I think what you're saying is if we took a survey and we know what the people want, but yet we're gonna take it off and not use it. I'm not sure why we did the survey if we're not gonna at least listen to what, like you said, they don't want big box stores, right? Would you rather have a mixed use of a 10-to-1 ratio or a big box store? I know what I would rather have. I'd rather have some semblance of Litchfield, but not a Market Commons. So, I've got my directions figured out. You guys didn't panic. I like that.
So this is that precedent that I was kind of alluding to here, just to show y'all kind of. Yeah, it's a not a very, big ratio there. It's this building that is. I don't know if it's going to come up or not.
This is high tech.
Yeah, so that's mixed use building. There's a couple apartments up at the top of those. So instead of Beals, like if Beals were to redevelop, what do you want it to be? Do you want it to be a Walmart or a Food Lion or what would you rather something like that? Or Publix.
Don't talk about grocery stores.
Aldi. I don't know what your favorite is. But anyway, that's kind of a thought.
The concept is available, whether it's on the map or not.
Yeah, it needs to be tweaked a little bit. The zoning district needs to be tweaked a little bit because the way it's currently written, it's not going to get used. So, but yeah, we could encourage it, and then it could be still a legislative decision that you all can, deem it appropriate or not, and town council as well.
Mr. Chair. I guess my biggest concern is, and I'm not 100% against the concept of mixed use, but I don't know that it has any place anywhere close to the water. I mean, if you're having to build up already and your parking is tight as it is, that I think is definitely off the table. And then if we allow any kind of residential along the 17 corridor, then all of a sudden you have precedent to allow some kind of residential on the 17 corridor. And then a lot of what our previous vision just starts to unravel if we take that too far. So I'm thinking, like, what happens if, knock on wood, storm comes through and then all of a sudden we need to rebuild half the town, and now you're looking to adjacent use, and now you start having this bleed into the 17 corridor. So, I mean, if you drive up and down 17 throughout the county, there's really not a whole ton of residential directly on 17. I just don't know that it's worth it to open that can of worms. But I'm all for fixing the ordinance. I mean, I don't think the idea of it isn't important to me if it's done well and done right. I do like, we were saying, Litchfield shops and stuff like that. We all like our small boutique businesses and stuff. When we go to Maine, we have to drive 2 hours to get to the nearest Walmart. I'm not even kidding. It's that mentality to the extreme. But that's a big concern of mine is, once we open that can of worms, really, I think it's going to be Pandora's box. And residential will eat up the 17 corridor if we allow it. I really do think so.
I don't know that that's the case. I mean, from my standpoint, I think, I don't know that I would want to buy a property on 17 to live. Highway in front of me. So I don't know that it's opening up Pandora's box. I'm just saying.
Yeah, the way I look at it is in a couple key locations, it could be the difference maker between utilizing the whole property. I mean, you can use the frontage, and the frontage is going to be really attractive for commercial. But you got a lot of deep lots and properties, and it could be that somebody's just not worth, it's not worth to redevelop or even develop if you know, because they're not going to be able to put commercial on the backside. You know, and you all are part of a regional market that, you know, you might not get that investment, but, you know, that's okay.
I think if you work off some type of percentage, you wouldn't have
No, you
a
could,
lot,
yeah.
I mean.
you could
it's
limit
not,
it,
I
if you
mean-
do like a 10,000 square foot and then you can only have a certain number of units.
Well, I mean, it's gotta
then
be
it's
a
gonna be-
conditional use on it too, you know, you've gotta build a commercial building in order, if you wanna put a 400, you can't just go put a 400 square foot apartment. You gotta have a a 4,000 square foot commercial building in order to have the 4,000 square foot residential.
Exactly, so you're still gonna
So-
keep it, you know, it's gonna be 2 to 1, 3 to 1, you know, in terms of footprint anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we could spend, I think we got a lot more discussions on this. I don't think we're gonna fix this tonight. So, anybody got any other
So just to kind of,
thoughts?
I think, so we want to take the neighborhood mixed use off the map and just leave it as a recommendation. Is that kind of the general feeling? And just have it, or no?
I don't think so.
Mine.
That's,
It's not mine.
okay, all right.
So we're back to square zero.
Back to
We just
you.
can't take each
Anybody
other
else?
out.
I know. So let them discuss it.
Yeah.
We'll step back.
Well, I think this is gonna have to come back to either a workshop, get more input as we have we're gonna have a public hearing on this. I think more input from the citizens. Now they really understand, we're gonna take it away from the Pier Village. Not gonna be any there.
Yeah, that's coming off. Everybody's on board.
That's all.
Agree.
Everybody's good with that.
Yeah.
Now, understanding the concept, the mixed use potentially is only gonna be on Highway 17. And if we all agree on some kind of percentage or additional use on 17, it makes it just a little bit harder. But yet it still gives people maybe some incentive to build a
That's
couple of 400 or 800 square foot apartments to go along with an 8,000 square foot. And that was the whole concept, and we were talking, and I think Scott said it, we're trying to figure out a way to and I'll call them what they are, the eyesores that we have on 17, figure out other options for them. Trying to figure out a way to get people in these buildings.
inject
Is
life.
this the best option? I don't know. But it's certainly another option.
And it doesn't have to be apartments too. That's another thing that, you know, because the hammock shops is not apartments. I mean, the hammock shops, if you look on the back side of the hammock shops, it's like nice homes. That was part of, you know, that development. So this back part of the hammock shops was part of this development over back in here.
Well, if we had the tree canopy like that to hide all those houses, that'd be wonderful. Be wonderful.
You have some, but
Are we talking about residential on the west side of 17 again?
No.
We just went through that.
She was just talking about it. We weren't talking about
Not even one, in my opinion.
so would you, you know, we're going to remove it from the neighborhood mixed use. We're going to keep talking. Y'all got to workshop it and figure out, you know, some boundaries on that. Would you also want us just to remove it from the west side of 17 and just leave it on the east side of 17?
To me, it's just the opposite. Take it off of the east side and put it on the west, the mixed use.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I just think we need to wait till the workshop and get the feedback from the residents.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, that's what's gonna determine it.
Well, I just want the residents to be clear what the options are.
Right.
You know,
And with a
we're
good
not,
workshop.
I just want them to make sure that we're not talking about a market commons. We're talking about a strategy of trying to fill up these buildings on 17. That's what I want to be clear. So as long as, yeah, I'm good with that. All right, we're not talking about this anymore. Moving on.
I think we gave Jake what he needed.
Sorry.
What did you just say? Strategy to.
I think the strategy from this commission is trying to maximize the uses of these vacant buildings on Business 17. Potentially give them some options.
Vacant properties and buildings.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, great.
All right, what are we? All right, we did the mixed use. Goal 4, provide sufficient areas for commercial and other non-residential uses while protecting residential areas from encroachment. Monitor the amount of vacant property available for commercial activities, analyze the location and design of non-residential development proposals and rezonings with the consideration of trip generation, potential of proposed uses and the need for parking, drainage patterns and the impact of stormwater runoff on existing and planned drainage systems, compatibility with surrounding land uses, current and future, and the potential for nuisance creation, utility and other infrastructure, including pedestrian infrastructure, needs and the capabilities present in the areas of the town. Avoid spot zoning and the introduction of incompatible land uses. I don't think that's going to happen.
I mean, if you think something's not needed, we can delete too. Like deleting is good. Like, we tried to get this down. We got it, from 160 pages to 8. But,
Well, you never want to assume anything. So I made that comment that it's not to the point where I'd like to take it off. We're aware of it.
There's different moments. Today, I mean, this is not.
Number 5. Protect the aesthetics and functionality of Highway 17.
This is where we said, the suggestion was to change it to improve the aesthetics.
Yeah.
America,
Yes.
you guys, the key to the Corvette, it's too good of a country to let them drive it.
The aesthetics
Let
of
me ask you, because there's one
US Highway 17.
Meter House King Jeffrey, who could have saved the
2, I have maintained adequate setbacks along the corridor, develop special standards for law.
He went on TV and lied and said it was Democrats who nearly shut the country down and were responsible for the shutdown, even though the Democrats who actually saved the country from a shutdown.
So I'll add something to this too, is like you all have something in your zoning code that's a vehicle for this, these special standards for large developments. It's the design district.
Point at which Kevin
Covers
McCarthy
kind of
could have made a decision and maybe been saved and maybe had some Democrats vote for
Is
it.
to do, that could help you implement this goal. The standards are pretty basic, especially when you compare it to some other jurisdictions along 17. You all are, have some basic stuff, but they certainly could be.
You can't trust this guy. You can't trust him for 1 second to keep his word. And so why don't we use Speaker Pelosi where we say our diversity is our
I
strength.
do like to read the bottom traffic impact studies with required mitigation, additional landscaping requirements, for larger parking lots, and special architectural and design standards.
To get us to the right outcome.
Yeah, well,
That right outcome,
Who's the
and I
designer?
think you're gonna continue to see it led by governments.
So we,
Michael Steele, I've had a lot of these conversations lately where people
It
go,
doesn't need to be on the to-do list, but
right, and I agree
no, but
with
it
them
needs to
again.
be brought to
I think
somebody's
House
attention.
Representatives, and this is what.
Maybe it's ours, maybe it's somebody else, but
Literally the same margin
are
in
we
terms of the numbers of members that we have.
actively
Nothing like
adding
that.
landscaping requirements for large
The
parks?
last three
Say maintain
Republican
and,
speakers,
and consider enhancing
Kevin
or something
McCarthy,
like that.
joined Paul Ryan and John
Knowledge is
Boehner,
what you
and
have.
be capable of controlling
There
a
is some
caucus
things that you
with
can
this
do.
narrow of a margin, and in their case, they had a wide margin, and they will have to leave it
It's hard to
humiliation.
get to the Litchfield example, right?
Right.
But you could at least do a few things. And one is canopy trees. An easy thing is canopy trees. So you have some landscaping requirements in terms of foundational plantings or kind of basic shrub plantings and parking lots. But one of the things that you feel when you go down a corridor or you drive down a road, it's called a sense of enclosure. And that sense of enclosure makes you feel a certain way. You can feel safe. If you're walking or biking, you have a sense of enclosure. Like, you feel different when you're walking down Surfside Drive, for instance, than you do when you're walking down 17, right? But for a number of reasons, but you feel exposed when you're going down 17. And, you would if you were to walk there. You feel like you're not safe. But one of the things that you could do and try to do incrementally with development is improve that sense of enclosure. And you can do that a number of ways. You can frame the road through buildings and not put a big parking lot in front of a building, right? So if you move the building a little bit farther up, you still want to maintain your setbacks because you want to do that, but you don't want to put a big parking lot with nothing in front of it. Like Beals does not create a sense of enclosure, right? Like it is wide open. The other thing you can do is canopy trees or shade trees, and so it's not just I like crepe myrtles, don't get me wrong, but they're not trees, right? They're not like, usually they can be if people maintain them right, but usually that doesn't happen. But you can, even just including a requirement or adjusting requirements for shade or canopy trees can help provide that sense of enclosure with new development and improve the aesthetics. It can green it a little bit more than it is right now. And that could happen incrementally, without necessarily like a dime, but you want to, right size it. You don't want to go overboard and make it to where, people don't want to come to your town and invest in your town because you require, 600 trees or whatever. But a couple, canopy trees or shade trees can do a world difference.
Is there a reason you didn't put this in the draft?
No, I was just thinking about it the other day, but that's something that we could add.
Well, obviously, we're adding canopy trees and we're reducing the footprint of pervious materials also.
That's a lot
So
of
now
benefits.
we're helping stormwater, runoff, retention ponds, the whole 9 yards. All right. One more in this section. Provide for thoughtful but comprehensive review of the new use and development proposals, ensure consistent interpretation, enforcement, and reporting to promote predictable outcomes.
Mary Ellen?
Goal number 6. Yeah, page 40. You got it? That was a mouthful.
I'm not sure what it says.
Me either. Ensure consistent interpretation. That's the part I have a problem with. If we still got ordinances that need interpretation, we've not done a very good job.
It doesn't even say interpretation of enforcement and reporting of what.
Well, there should be no ordinance that needs interpretation. I shouldn't read it, you shouldn't read it, and somebody else read it, and we come up with a different, no.
The word ordinance isn't even in there.
Yeah.
And this is something that think it was on the list of draft recommendations that y'all worked on, I guess it was a year ago.
I'll find that one. Yeah, there's a ton of these, there's a ton of what you got in this proposal came from our recommendations, but I did not find that one.
Section.
Yeah, goal 6. But I guess what I'm asking is what were you trying, what were you trying to say?
This is, if we're talking about, making this thing more digestible, this points out stuff that should already be happening, right? And it is already happening. You all take this seriously, Sabrina, and, I think that the only thing that is pointing out something new that's like an action item, let's say, is the last one. And that's a practical thing that could be helpful for staff, that is maintain enhanced data storage, retrieval capabilities of permits and other past zoning decisions. And that's something that's a practical thing that will benefit the town more. Out of all this, I think those are the most important words on the page. So I don't know if it needs 2 pages for just that strategy. It's kind
I just strike the whole thing.
All right.
We could move that to the priority investment element as an action item, and then we can scratch these 2 pages.
Okay. Work for me. Any other thoughts on the land use? Like I say, I think we got more work to do on this, so.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir.
So on page 31, we did end up changing the E-District to Pier Village, and of course, we talked about that, but since then, it was brought up in a meeting that Pier Village might be not the direction that we're going, resulting that another local, Pawleys Island has a Pier Village, and also New Jersey also has a Pier Village, so I'm not for sure if that's the direction we're still going. I would say next staff meeting, you probably should bring that up to them and see if that's what we want to do.
I think you're right. It sounded to me like that perhaps that was not going to be the direction we would go.
Yeah, but we don't get to decide that.
No, but
Town's got to make a decision before we know what to put in the comp plan.
I understand, but Jake's changing the comp plan from E-District to Pier Village because that's what we told him.
Yeah.
And so now
We'll just hold off on that until we get a definitive answer.
Yeah, so that's why I said refer to staff.
Yeah.
And then also, I just had a question around, we talked about the mixed use, and I know you cleared it up a little bit, but when we talk about the land use, future land use map, you were referring to the last 10 years comp plan's future land map. It's not in their current zoning. We don't have any mixed use in our current zoning.
You don't have it on your zoning map. It is a district that is not on the map yet.
Correct.
But theoretically, someone could come bring it to you as a rezoning. I want to go to the mixed use district, but it's really, it has some really good things in it. It talks about building footprints need to be small. It talks about, some enhanced design requirements, but there's some other stuff in there that make it to where it's probably not going to be used, like that has large setbacks. Well, that's a suburban thing. You have a large setback, really. Hammock village or hammock shops, they have small setbacks internally, so you can walk to places and that sort of thing. So you have some pretty large lot widths and lot sizes in there. So I would suggest that we retool that a little bit to accomplish what we want to do. Include some things and keep some things like architectural standards, small building footprints. Maybe add some things like a built-upon area maximum to where you make sure that there's green space and tree preservation or tree plantings and stuff like that. So you can enhance that to be what you want it to be, and then also make it a little bit attractive to folks.
And I just had a question around how common is it for us to understand it's a 10-year vision to a town, but how common is it to talk about the mixed use and the limited or light industrial when it's not even a thing yet. We're a recommending body, so I mean, it could go to council and not even be a thing at all.
Well, I think this character area on the future land use map is really, it's not saying, hey, let's put stuff there that's not there. I mean, the light industrial is there already. So it's really an acknowledgement of the existing character of that area. So, I mean, I think that it's totally appropriate to have on your future land use map if that's something that is already there, or you're considering. I know you're all talking about, well, do we need a light industrial district in order to acknowledge it? Regardless of whether you all do that or not, I think it's still appropriate to have on the future land use map.
Okay. And my last question around the land use would be, when you talk about the map, I see that you identify parks and everything else. Why wouldn't we identify like the beach accesses, golf cart parking and stuff on that future land map? It may not be a zoning, but.
Yeah, I mean, it just gets a little busy, to put it all on the map that size. I think you bring up a good point. Like if you would like a beach access map in the transportation section, that's something that we could certainly add, and we could add beach accesses and parking locations and stuff like that. I think that would add value to that section. We haven't got there yet, but
I do recommend that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Page 42, housing. Goal 1, preserve the quality of Surfside beaches, residential neighborhoods. Continue to maintain a balance between being a vacation destination and a family-oriented year-round community. Maintain the distinction in the town zoning ordinance between transient short-term rentals and long-term residential occupancies. Require construction of sidewalks in all new residential developments and retrofit existing neighborhoods to increase the connectivity of the sidewalk network. Ensure that new housing developments fit into adjacent neighborhoods. By incorporating sidewalks, connected streets, provide open space that is accessible to the entire community. Promote sustainable building practices for new residential developments, page 45, such as low impact development, and encourage leadership in energy and environmental design. Any thoughts on the housing recommendations?
Yeah, why are we talking so much about new housing developments? I can't imagine where we put one. We got room for another Harbor Lights? Ensure that new housing developments fit into adjacent neighborhoods. Where does anybody visualize that happening?
And Mr. Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
I agree with you, Mary Ellen. However, to Michael's point from earlier, say we have a big storm and there, some things are flattened.
Mhm.
Then you have the potential of builders coming in and wanting to create different types of properties. So I think this, to that end, would at least show what we want the scope for the vision of the town to be.
But isn't it realistic that what would usually happen in a major emergency like that is they relax all the rules? That's what I've seen happen in other parts of the country. We're not gonna hold to all these rules because we've got an emergency here. I don't know, I understand your point. It's not hurting anything, but I don't know that it's good for anything else unless we wipe out the whole town.
Well, I think the key here is we're protecting what's already here against something that could potentially be built in the future.
And you do have some underutilized land or some vacant land here and there. You don't know what's going to be cobbled together and redeveloped and that sort of thing. I mean, there's been some examples of it. And, you know, if you know, some of these, you know, developments you didn't foresee, like you can't foresee everything. We didn't do we didn't go parcel by parcel to understand, you know, is there potential here and there. And there's going to be stuff that comes before this board that you can't foresee.
With goal 2, which I'm still trying to wrap my head around, allow a diversity of housing options in Surfside Beach to meet the long-term needs of current and prospective residents. I think we have, I think Alex, go ahead, Michael, while I'm looking.
Okay, thank you. How much of this discussion is required by the state to have that housing for young starter families? Or, yeah, I see a lot, because the one amenity that we don't have and we can't offer, we can't snap our fingers and offer it, is a family with children to come in and live next to a bunch of other families with children. So somebody's got to move here first. So I see a ton of, I'm a banker, so I see a ton of customers come in, they want to build in Carolina Forest specifically for that reason, so their children have other children to play with. We just don't have that demographic here. I mean, I can drive around and point you to 5 houses within 5 blocks of my house that have children. It's very few. I mean, but how much of that is required by the state and how much of it is we're putting in here to have it here? But again, we're 2 square miles, we have significant amounts of beach frontage. I don't know that that falls on us in the same brevity that it falls on Horry County. But I'm not sure what the state's requiring and what we can push back on. Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a good amount of leeway in what goes into the housing element. You have to address housing mix and that sort of thing, but you can also tailor it to your locale. And I think that's what we tried to do, but if there's some things in here that don't make sense, we could certainly remove them.
Well, I think that's what a lot of Surfside was back in the 80s, but it just hasn't.
And I think it was a big emphasis in your last plan. I mean, you talked a lot about year-round, young families as being a target. And I think we talked about it, early on that, that's not really a major goal anymore is young families and year-round residents. It's not as big of a goal as it was. So, we changed that goal to be a little bit more, more general. That just talked about the long-term needs of current and prospective residents instead of really recruiting kind of younger, really focusing on younger families. So,
well, I think the word diversity is what's giving me pause, is because we had a lot of discussion about tiny homes when the Swells was built. We just had a lot of discussion about the word I'm not allowed to name. And I understand it. I mean, we have young individuals in my family looking for a place to live now too, but I don't know that beachfront is the answer to that. And I don't know how we can accommodate that when our dirt is selling for $250,000 to $500,000 a lot.
What we could do, I mean, we could, trim this down a little bit. I mean, we could say, remove kind of a diversity of housing. We could remove strategy 2A and just talk about nuts and bolts of what you're currently, providing some zoning districts that have housing, allow different housing types. You do have a planned development option, and this A1, we can make that strategy 2A, and that just talks about what is kind of a checklist for planned development. Basically we want to make sure that planned developments are connected and integrated into the development pattern. They're not just turning their back on kind of the rest of the neighborhood, so to speak. And and that sort of thing. And then, the one question I have, I think there is a recommendation about accessory dwelling units and considering looking at that and whether you would allow it or not allow it and where. But we can delete that if that's something that you all don't feel strongly about.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I had that noted. I was gonna inquire with Sabrina, but, you may know, I don't know, does accessory dwellings, does that affect the community rating system any for FEMA or doesn't?
You would have to do it, you would have to build that to the same level that you would anything else, right? Like, so, you couldn't, not build it with a certain amount of freeboard, and you'll have really good kind of flooding and finished floor requirements here, and that would have to meet that as well.
Thank you.
Just wanted to read what Alex sent concerning this goal 2 under housing. Not sure this should be a goal. For the record.
Yeah, I mean, we could delete the whole goal and just leave these strategies under the first goal, because they're really just talking about housing in general. So, I mean, that's fine too.
It's all just so vanilla. There's nothing, I don't see what's specific in it.
I think that there's a couple things, that I'll point out. One is, you do have a plan development option, so you do need some kind of recommendations in your comp plan to give you some guidance on when a plan development is appropriate. The accessory dwelling units, that's something that, we want to maintain character of the town, but we do, have a lot of aging folks, so that would allow, a granny flat or something if somebody owns an acre of land, and, wants to, move in their mother-in-law or something, that would, provide some options for, flexibility, or if they're moving out of the main house and their son and daughter want to move in, and they move into a granny flat. That's an option there. Senior population, strategy 2B, you do have folks that are aging. So particularly B2, accessibility design features such as ramps, and those things can encroach on certain things, and providing flexibility for, like a handicap ramp can mean whether someone stays in the community or is jettisoned from the community.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir.
When I think about it, I think about like if they did go to review an ordinance or something, maybe this comp plan could give them direction into reviewing the ordinance as well. So, not that we have any land for plan development or anything, but it could be a future tool to look at to guide them if that did come.
I just think the wording of that goal is a little, I get lost in it.
We can delete the goal and just have all these under goal 1, because I think, it's still.
It would fit, wouldn't it?
It would fit, because it's still about the quality of Surfside Beach residential neighborhood. So, I think that's what we do.
Good with that. Everybody good with that? Yeah. Okay.
So economic development, this was one that there was a suggestion to reorder some goals. So I think it was suggested the first goal be moved to the end, so position Surfside Beach to benefit from the regional Grand Strand economy. And then number 5, people really wanted to emphasize this goal, and by moving it forward. So that was kind of the two kind of reorganizations here. I don't know if y'all support that or not.
All 5 is about balance.
Well, to me, goal number 2 is already what we're doing, where we're at. And I'll read that. It's to distinguish Surfside Beach from other Grand Strand coastal communities and cultivate Surfside Beach's unique identity. All you gotta do is ride down the beach in a boat. You can see where Surfside begins and ends. me, I think that's unique. Our building heights are unique. And continue to promote Surfside Beach as a family beach. Market Surfside Beach to attract younger families as permanent residents. Okay?
Now let's ask why we were even doing it.
Yeah. Yeah, so develop a pedestrian scale, including new development in the business districts, E-District, Town Center, and Business 17.
Those are your business districts. That's,
Yeah,
not the E-District, Pier Village, whatever, Pier District, whatever it ends up being.
whatever it's gonna be.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
do we want to put anything about being autism friendly
Hmm.
in this section? And trying to maintain that standard going forward?
Yeah, this is your idea.
Because I think there's a way we can maintain the family beach feel and vibe and offer services and encourage businesses that attract that.
Well, and there's a lot of restaurants and places in town that have already been trained
Right.
for kids on the spectrum and stuff. They have rooms for them. The airport now has a safe room for these kids. So, yeah, I think we were one of the first autism-friendly destinations in the country.
Let me ask you this, what is either the town role or the rural role of like a civic or business organizations in order to do that? So we could add a little bit more detail to that.
I can get you that information. It's through CAN.
Champion Autism Network.
Yep.
Mr. Chair, also, I haven't noted, it's in a different section on page 14. You have plan goals, and under the population section, it says goal 2, foster a family-oriented vacation destination. I also think you should add autism friendly on that as well.
Okay.
So I think you got that under vision and goals on page 14.
Yeah, we're gonna do that under number 2, just as it's listed under the 2 captions on page 50.
That's why I have it marked up on here.
I would almost put it 2B under continuing to promote Surfside Beach as a family beach. What do you think, Jay?
Yeah, that works.
We passed page 49 as well. You have encouraged in the city's E-District as well. Can we change that to towns or town?
Yes. Where's that?
It's on page 49. It says under the
Last
local,
paragraph.
local commerce.
Last
Yeah.
paragraph.
You did well for the rest of your chapters. I did browse through it, so I thought you did well. I think that's the only one you missed.
There's one over here too.
Really? Where's it at?
That's the one I changed. Oh, no, the
Labor force as well.
city of Surfside.
Good catch. Missed it.
Sorry, goal number 3, leverage the investment in the Surfside beach fishing pier to promote economic development in the district,
Pier Village.
your village,
Whatever.
whatever.
center.
No, not that center.
Probably no need to change it until we figure out
Yeah, I
what
mean,
it
that's
is,
just one of
Jake, 'cause
those you need to know to go back to.
I think that's in flux a little bit.
But yeah, main thing is Surfside Beach. Develop a strategic plan for the district and/or town center, ensure land use regulations encourage appropriate development within these districts. Promote connectivity between the district and the pier with surrounding residential areas, key locations throughout the community, and potentially to the East Coast Greenway. Install wayfinding and interpretive signage to establish an identity or brand for the district and to promote east of connectivity to the district.
I think just promote connectivity to the district.
Yeah. For support local businesses to ensure economic viability of established commercial areas. This we talked about the wayfinding. Survey the business community biannually to identify business needs and impediments and growth. Create, monitor, and inventory of vacant commercial buildings and land.
Business committee about the contract or something like that. Oh, that's only about the business license.
Yes, yeah, it's going through, see who they missed.
I think they're also creating a list of vacancies and everything else as well. So I think there's more to the survey of just business license.
I would hope so. Why go through it more than once? Just count everything the first time.
And I know we're not finished with the strategies and everything, but talking about businesses and local businesses, there's no mention of business committee, and that's probably a responsibility and a strategy we should be using. So I would suggest putting tasking business committee to some of these tasks or strategies.
Well, that will be council's
I think that
decision,
would be a council.
not planning and zoning.
I mean, we could say something like, you know, you can mention, you know, potentially tasking the business committee with, you know,
Well,
things.
you
to
might
implement
have
this.
mentioned that if we have a business committee in place that could possibly provide this information. Nice. Yes, ma'am. Oh, too late now. The goal, I think, that we moved from 5 to 1 or wherever it was at.
I would suggest moving it to 2. It sounded like
2?
you kind of,
Okay.
yeah, it sounded like goal 2 was really y'all's favorite. So let's,
Yeah, no doubt.
let's leave that as, let's make
So
it 2
we're gonna
1.
move 5 to 2,
Mhm.
2 to 1.
Yeah.
Okay. Promote Surfside Beach for tourism while preserving established residential neighborhoods and unique environmental features.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Personally, I think it should be 1. That's just my opinion. Do I have a second?
I agree with that.
Or something
I
to
could go
consider?
either way. I mean, they're all goals, and I think 2 currently, we do very well,
That is true.
you know?
Mr. Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
I think in our own minds, we do that very well. And I respectively, I think that in our own minds, we do that very well. I think if you talk to people who don't live in Surfside, I'm not sure, yes, if they're in a boat driving up and down the coast, I'm sure they can see that there's a difference in height level.
Mhm.
If they don't live in Surfside, I'm not sure that
That's
they,
where it ends.
potentially. So I think sometimes we're good, but we're not always as good as we think we are. And that we can do better and that we shouldn't short-sight that.
So it should be number one.
I think both are very important.
Can we have the both of them as one?
Here's an idea, and I hate to throw a curveball out, but I think part of what makes you unique is goal number 5.
Agreed.
So, you know, the fact that you really do have established residential neighborhoods and you do make it a priority to protect your unique environmental features are part of what distinguishes you as a community from the rest of the Grand Strand. So it could be we integrate like that, you know, the goal 1 is goal 2 is that uniqueness. But then, you know, this becomes kind of like a strategy underneath that or something like that really is part of what makes you unique. I mean, I think that's somehow we should connect the dots there. I don't know how to do it right off the top of my head, but like I feel like when I read that unique identity, I feel like, you know, those things are really part of what makes you unique.
Well, and if we really want to grade all these, which one of these is not important?
Right.
You know, leveraging the investment on the pier, you know, supporting local businesses. Which one are we going to say, well, that one doesn't really matter? We'll put it down.
They're all
4 or
important.
5.
They're all
important. You know?
But Mr. Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
I do agree with what you just said, Jake, in that they are kind of integrated and that part of what distinguishes Surfside and what can distinguish Surfside even further in the view of people who don't live in Surfside is the fact that we have a fairly protected residential area that's close to the beach and that we do maintain height restrictions and that we, you know, have, I mean, actually there, if you're selling Surfside, you're selling a lifestyle. And it is different from the lifestyle of other coastal communities, even within a few miles of us. We are an incorporated town. We have a library. We have a senior center. We have places that you can golf cart or bike or walk to eat. I mean, so there are a lot of things that we have lakes and you know, we just bocce ball courts and we have a lot of things that are different from our surrounding areas that make us the town that we all love living in.
And these are not priorities, right?
No.
So it doesn't necessarily matter which is first or second, right?
They're not listed in order of priority, correct? That is correct. So,
Yeah, the last one, goal 6, promote quality development on business Highway 17 corridor. Review land use policies and regulations to promote high quality development along business 17. Promote safe pedestrian, bicycle, and golf cart connectivity to and across business 17. Participate in regional transportation planning efforts to promote pedestrian and multi-modal model connectivity along business 17.
So one thing I'll note, and I don't know if y'all want to do anything about this or maybe it's okay. We talk about US 17 in a number of places. We have a goal and recommendations in the land use section of about 17. We have this goal and associated recommendations. And then we also talk about it on transportation kind of recommendation there, so section 2. So, maybe that's okay. Maybe they're different enough. Some consolidation might be okay as well.
Mr. Chair. So this is just a banker, man. I'm sorry to be down. But I like all the language about revitalizing and bringing some life and some upfit and some new shutters and a fresh coat of paint and bells and whistles to 17. But it just comes a point where I'm not going to finance that. Yeah, because you're not going to get the appraised value off of it. The project's going to become too cumbersome. It's not going to cash flow because it's going to cost too much to add all this stuff to it.
Mm-hmm.
I know we're not talking about specifics here, but that's just something to keep in mind when we do start getting into maybe making recommendations off of this, is that I want it to be economically feasible for the businesses. Because Surfside, if you build a business on the 17 corridor at Surfside and you draw a circle around it, that's 5 miles in radius, not diameter, you're gonna have water. So you're losing that whole swath of population, where if you build something off 17 bypass, yeah, you're hitting the waterway, but you're still getting way more residents here. We don't have that. And 17 will never have that. Geographically, it will never have that. So I don't want to make it too cumbersome. So I read a lot of this and I said, well, yeah, okay, that's nice, it's nice, it's nice, it's nice. But there just comes a point where I don't know that if we tack on all this stuff onto what someone's trying to do, if I can get it done in my role. The other thing is I'd like to see more beach in this. We talk a lot about the Pier Village, we talk a lot about 17 corridor, but all this is here because of the beach amenity. So how do we leverage the beach amenity without becoming Myrtle Beach? And maintaining goal 5, preserving Surfside, but leveraging the beach. I would like to see a little bit more than just the family beach, but making sure that we're keeping up with our moneymaker. Because that's why people are coming here. I mean, we can build a pier off the Intercoastal Waterway, no one's gonna go stand off of it, fish, really, maybe a few people, but I think we need a little bit more of that in the goals, and just maintaining, promoting the beach and things like that. And just to eat the immediate crow, I have raised concerns over parking lot turnover. So I know that's, both sides of the I do think we need more of it for economic development. That's why everything's functioning the way it is.
Let me offer a suggestion. One, I hear you loud and clear about the beach. I think we could do one of two things. We could add something in the economic development section, or we could add something in the natural resources section that really specifically talks about, protecting the beach and capitalizing on it and that sort of thing.
I would like it mentioned in both places, because if someone's picking up our comp plan to establish a new business, I want that beach to be front and center, and you are to maintain this asset and not compromise it. And, I guess what I don't want to do is entice someone to build something down in the Pier Village and then make that portion of the beach not a great place to be. That's not good economic development to me. I want to make sure that you're maintaining that asset, that we're continuing to get foot traffic down there. And people are continuing to enjoy that amenity, because that's going to hurt all of the rest of it.
So,
To be determined in district.
a couple things. So,
I don't know how to word it, but I just didn't read a lot of that in here.
Even when you're talking about parking, there's like the whole beach parking thing, and then there's
Beach parking and then there's
parking for
retail parking.
near the two shall meet.
well, I think it goes somewhere under that uniqueness.
Sorry, Jake, I know I'm throwing a lot of my comments on you.
So if we add something, we gotta take something away. I'm gonna suggest something, okay? So we can add that somewhere there. This 17 business corridor, I think this is kind of duplicate. I think I'd suggest moving these last two strategies to the transportation section. And then the first one to the land use section. And if we wanted to have if we wanted to have a strategy about quality development in 17 corridor, I think that's fine, but it could probably fit under kind of the support in local businesses. Honestly, we already have, we have something there. So I would suggest reorganizing this a little bit and getting rid of this goal. So we only have, one less goal.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
before we move on, I want to hop back to goal 5 and strategy 5C on page 52. You said utilize resources such as Coastal Carolina University's Clay Britton Junior Center for Resort Tourism to maximize potential in-state and regional tourism. I know you probably won't be able to list all the resources that are available, but we do fund the Myrtle Beach Chamber of Commerce, and it's not mentioned here. So I think just continuing that partnership with the town and Myrtle Beach Chamber of Commerce would be great.
Yeah, I'm gonna add that probably to the Grand Strand economy goal. Because we could, you're getting stuff from them. So we want to continue that if we're going to keep funding.
So you're saying you're getting rid of goal 6 entirely to promote quality development in the business 17 corridor? Or you're adding that?
I'm moving it to a strategy under goal 4.
Okay. And I wouldn't mind for it to be a little bit higher in goal 4.
Yeah, I think it would be above the wayfinding. Because it's more important than wayfinding is promoting the development of the 17 corridor. Yeah. Okay.
All right, we've gone through 4 sections and we got 4 more. I'll take a 5-minute break. Or you want to keep going?
My bladder's okay.
Mine's not.
Oh. 5 is okay. Yeah.
All right, you do it. We're gonna take a 5-minute break. We'll be right back. We'll get 2 hours, probably got another.
This conference will now be recorded.
We are on transportation. Transportation. Let me get you, guys, hey, Dave, we're back in order. Let's go. Goal 1 under transportation, make Surfside Beach one of the most pedestrian and bicycle-friendly beach communities in South Carolina. Make Surfside Drive and Ocean Boulevard the most pedestrian-friendly streets in the Grand Strand. Pedestrian-friendly and also safe. Maintain and improve pedestrian safety and comfort. I think you mentioned comfort along Surfside Drive. The wider sidewalks have a lot to do with that. Maintain crosswalks and consider additional street trees, crosswalks, and curb extensions to increase shade, slow traffic, and reduce crossing distances. Consider the addition of pedestrian scale lighting in additional locations, study costs and phasing for underground utilities. we'll talk about that in a minute. I got some of those numbers on underground utilities, and we need to have a different strategy. We're not making any headway. When this project we got going now is $4 million, and we're generating $400,000 a year through Santee Cooper. That's 10 years for this next project that is 3rd north to 9th north. Now, and I knew this when we first started this, it's a slow process and everybody's contributing. But when we're only doing one project every 10 years, we got to figure out a different strategy. And whether it's more participation, I don't know if you can, much like Beach Tree Nourishment, I don't know if you can throw hospitality money a little bit each year to start building these funds up. Obviously, Santee Cooper matches this dollar for dollar, and we can build out 3 years. So once we have the money to build, or projected for 3 years, we can start the project. But yeah, and I'm not saying we're in a bad location. Obviously, these are the most expensive locations that we're doing, and that's Ocean Boulevard. Do we continue down Ocean Boulevard, knowing what the cost is? Do we go to 17? 17's not much cheaper.
No.
Do we look at residential? I know residential is a lot cheaper. I just think that really needs to be studied. And I didn't pull those numbers out of the air. I got those from John Adair a couple of days ago. Those are real deal numbers. So, all right, what I'll say about that. So invest in sidewalks and safety infrastructure. I think we talked about the sidewalks and I've talked about that. I've talked about them. I shouldn't say we. These are projects to where, as I said before, at one point in time, we had a grant writer in town. And I think that is, I think we really need another one. Because there's money out there to be got, and all you got to do is ask for it. Whether it be through CTC, whether it be through the COG, whether it be through the county, state, federal, we need to have our hand out like everybody else. And when we were building sidewalks, we were building at least a mile of sidewalk a year for 10 years. That's what John Adair's guys did in the wintertime. Instead of laying people off because all the tourists were gone, they were building sidewalks. And they loved it. We built them in-house. And the most we paid for a sidewalk was 20%. We provided the labor. We provided the labor, and we paid 20% of the material cost. We got 80% matching grants either through COG or CTC or the county. There is no reason in the world why we shouldn't be doing the same thing, since we hadn't built a new sidewalk since, 2009? Now, we're gonna talk about these things.
There were some small pieces.
Well, there was a small piece on Ocean Boulevard, but that was just a segment from Neil and Pam's to the corner. That's not that far. But I think if we talk about this, and we talk about being pedestrian friendly, the interconnectivity of this town, that was the whole point years ago, connecting the town, getting people out to walk versus getting their car going to Surfside Drive. Now they can get on Poplar, well, from about 6th Avenue, they can get on Poplar. I'm not sure why we stopped halfway down Poplar, where everywhere else, Hollywood's all the way to Melody Lane. You know, we have, as you can tell, I'm a big proponent of sidewalks because I've seen them and I know they work. And I know they're cheap
Relatively.
relatively if you're
Mhm.
providing the labor.
Yeah.
And you don't have to outsource it. The only part that we outsourced was that little strip on Poplar.
So
All the rest of them you see done in-house.
I mean, I think this is another candidate for that priority investment element. We could get a little bit more specific, to the point where, you know, set something like, I don't know if it's a mile, you know, a year, but it's some, you know, linear foot or some, you know, half mile a year. I don't know what it is.
I would say a mile a year, designate, you know, the way we used to do it on the streets when we started on 10th Avenue, we sent a survey out. And everybody on the street wanted the sidewalk, right? They just still wanted it on their side of the street, you know? Everybody loved it, but when you said, well, the reason it's on the side of the street that it's on 10th is because of the old children's park. It made sense, you know? And like John, he'll take these streets and he'll go look and see which is the least divisive as far as covering gutter, as far as the driveways are concerned. But surveys are sent out, and I mean, my dad lives on Hollywood, and he was raising Cain when they said they were gonna build a sidewalk. Now he uses it every day. So, go figure. But, all right, I got lost there for a second, sorry.
No, that was good.
Yeah, evaluate safety concerns on an annual basis, retrofit existing roads and sidewalks, traffic calming measures in areas of known safety concerns. Maintain standards that require new development to install sidewalks and pedestrian-friendly connections to serve new development.
Does that include Greenway? Bringing that through somehow?
Yeah, I mean, that's,
I mean, I don't know if that's,
I'm not sure how realistic it is, but.
that was actually explored way back when. You just never could figure out. I mean,
Yeah,
if they wanted to bring it down Ocean Boulevard,
Yeah.
obviously would have been the best thing, but from a safety perspective, especially in summertime, people pulling in and backing out of those
Too many
driveways.
drive cuts. I mean, you know, talking with John, I mean, he likes the idea of keep looking at 17 or maybe something parallel to 17, you know, and that's why the next strategy 1D, you know, that's where the East Coast Greenway is
Yep.
mentioned.
oh, sorry, I was,
Yeah, plan for improved accommodations for the East Coast Greenway as a major east-west pedestrian and bike route along 17. And I reflect back, if you go to 14th Avenue where's a sidewalk, that's where we did underground wiring. You know, right across top of underground wiring with a sidewalk. And that was kind of the strategy. Street lighting, everything looked good. Is our next move? I don't know. This is a big undertaking. If you're gonna build a bike path on 17, why don't you bury the power lines first? And then, because you've already created, I don't want to call it easement, but you're gonna have to have plenty of room on 17 to bury the conduit and the pipes and everything and take it. Why not build a greenway on top of that? But realistically, we're talking 10 years.
Oh yeah. I mean, that's why we try to
So.
Break it down
are we
into
tackling this?
a bite size. The next bite size thing for that
Yeah.
is two things. One you already mentioned was grant funding. Because if you can get grant funding for the Greenway, then adding on, moving, you might have to move utility poles anyway.
We had
Right,
funding.
Um,
It went away. We couldn't come up with a plan.
and I think, and
So
then
it can be done again.
in the next step is that, you know, working with SCDOT. And I think that they have money for feasibility study, conceptual planning stuff, and that's what you need, because it might not
Well, that's where we go through our local representative, and we make that contact in Columbia, and we get him working on it.
Because that's what you need. You need to kind of evaluate the feasibility of it along 17, or maybe it comes on Poplar for a section, or whatever. I don't know. Sandy Lane. I don't know where it would go necessarily, but it's a key connection. You can't really do what you want to do on Ocean Boulevard for the East Coast Greenway. They have a standard cross section they want to have, at least 10-foot wide path, and there's just not really enough room. And Ocean Boulevard's not bad from a pedestrian standpoint. It's real nice when you have like a little planting strip. The section with the planting strip better than the other section, but you just don't have a lot of room for what you really need for the East Coast Greenway. I think that you can have like a spur, spur trail to the pier or something, right? Like ideally you'd have it down 17, and then there would be like a spur trail down to the pier, and that kind of thing. So people could get to the heart of Surfside, but yeah, ideally you'd have somewhere for that path.
Okay. Goal 2. Improve the functionality, safety, and appearance of US 17 business corridor.
And we were going to move some of the recommendations that we're talking about transportation stuff and economic development over here. So there's clarify that,
Survey business owners along the corridor to assess their transportation-related concerns. Partner with property owners to implementing strategies to improve conditions along the corridor. We're kind of doing that now with the facade grant. Refine zoning standards to address building design, setbacks, driveway separation, alignment, parking, lighting, signage, and landscaping.
That's the overlay, right?
Yes.
And the last one was really about aesthetics and how can we make sure that your local needs find their way into bigger projects that DOT funds them.
Yeah, make community needs and aesthetics a priority in all transportation improvement projects and initiatives. Here it is, partner with GSATS, Grand Strand Area Transportation Study, and SCOD to incorporate priorities and goals of Surfside Beach into regional and statewide transportation projects. Include citizen committees, other stakeholder groups, and all transportation project visioning processes. Develop landscape standards that will improve aesthetics along roadways and provide an adequate buffer between motor vehicle and pedestrian traffic. Maintain and refine sign regulations to ensure that new signage placements do not detract from the overall aesthetics of the community. Ensure that ADA standards are met in design of commercial development projects and all public buildings and places. Goal 4, develop projects that encourage the use of alternative modes of transportation such as walking, biking, golf carts, and public transit. Maintain and install bike racks, at busy centers in Surfside Beach. Install proper signage to ensure that golf cart users are fully aware of regulations such as parking restrictions, sidewalk restrictions, nighttime use restrictions. Folks, they partner with Coast RTA. They have already got a stop here in town. And the shuttle's still right out here in front. Yeah, it used to be. Yeah, you're good. Goal 5, maintain and enhance parking and streets. Continue to provide and enhance public parking opportunities at parks near the ocean front and near the town center. Study street upgrades to include on-street parking and sidewalks where feasible. Consider opportunities for public off-street parking. Inventory and consider additions of handicap accessible parking places near the pier, town center, parks, and public facilities. Review parking requirements and standards required for development and consider standards or incentives for golf cart and bike parking. Continue annual evaluations of the town maintained streets and prioritize maintenance through fund allocations.
One thing I'll say about strategy 5B is, this is pretty typical of ordinances. A lot of times, the parking requirements ordinance haven't been looked at in a while. And that's always something to do periodically, is look at them and say, are they working? Are we over parking or under parking certain uses? And then, the incentives for golf cart and bike parking, that's something that you already have a lot of usage in terms of golf carts and bike parking, and that's beneficial in a lot of different ways. It adds to the character, but also has a practical benefit. You can fit more golf carts and you can fit 3 golf carts in one parking space. You can fit, 20 bikes in one parking space. So just from a sheer footprint of parking, the more people you can get riding golf carts and bikes, the better off you're going to be.
And one wheels.
Or whatever, yeah, all kinds of segways or whatever.
Unicycle.
Okay. All right. Community facilities.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
before we move on, I had a question around, on page 57, A2, improve pedestrian safety and comfort along Ocean Boulevard. The first one says, pretty much focusing on widening of existing sidewalks and filling gaps in the sidewalk. I'm just curious of why the priority would be Ocean Boulevard as well, not the whole town in general. I know we can only do sections or plan to do only sections.
Yeah, well, I think if you think about a spine network, you could, if you can get to Ocean Boulevard and Surfside, you can get to a lot of places. And you've already made investments to kind of, identify those as priorities in terms of pedestrian. But if you're going to invest, make those the most pedestrian-friendly streets that you have. And I think that's kind of what we wanted to say. Not that all the other streets are not important, but in a lot of places, you might not need a sidewalk until you get to a certain corridor with a lot of traffic. A lot of the neighborhoods, might not need a sidewalk until you get to a certain road with enough traffic or high speeds. And there's kind of like this inverse curve with speeds and traffic volumes where you need separated facilities. And on Ocean Boulevard, you need, a wider sidewalk or separated facilities.
Yeah, I just, my concern is, focused on existing when we're trying to extend, and 17 Business comes to mind for me. There's no sidewalks on 17 Business, so, it looks like that would be a growth for businesses and everything as well for that amenity. So,
Yeah, if we have other priorities like 17 Business or, you mentioned Poplar, I think this is also something that we could include either in this section or in priority investment. So it could be about, making Surfside and Ocean Boulevard even more pedestrian friendly, but then there's other priorities and we could list those or we can say, these need to be looked at on a yearly basis or something like that. But I think you bring up a good point.
Okay, and I think in that section too, there's an edit, it should say existing sidewalks.
Yes. Well, existing sidewalks. Yeah, there's 2 of them. Most places.
And on page 60, goal 4, strategy 4A, actually 4B, it says install proper signage to ensure that golf cart users are fully aware of regulations such as parking restrictions, sidewalk restrictions, nighttime use restrictions. Not sure how to put it in there, but I mean, I would also have rental facilities to make sure that they're sharing that information and regulations as well. I don't think most of the residents and locals that they're aware of the regulations already. I think it's more towards generated to not know the regulations.
We could include some bullet on that.
And my other note was for 61. I'm just curious, we talked about it earlier, but like identifying the beach accesses, is there a plan to have some kind of parking map that is in this transportation portion?
There's 2 maps that I think would be beneficial, or it could be 1 map actually. I think that the beach access and parking is a good one. And I think we might also want to include existing sidewalks and a potential alignment of the East Coast Greenway.
Alignment to what?
Of the East Coast Greenway, just basically a dash line that says this is roughly where a multi-use path could go on 17.
Gotcha. Even though there isn't one.
Yeah, with a big footnote saying, "We got to study this."
Right.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And the last part for this section, just as the business committee, leveraging the parking committee as well in this somehow. I understand we don't task any committee, but I mean, we do have a parking committee, so it may be brought up in there.
Mhm.
Yeah, are you, thinking if we had we start talking about the Greenway, there was a perfect spot for it before we started all the traffic reconfiguration. We closed the frontage roads at more strategic areas. You could run it right down the west side of 17. But too late now. All right, where are we at? Community facilities. Okay.
These are short, y'all. These are short. Do this.
Ensure a high level of public safety for residents and visitors. Obviously, continue to maintain state law enforcement accreditations. Maintain a quality police and fire force through the selection and retention of personnel. Regularly evaluate salaries and compensation to remain competitive in the region. Monitor staffing and call volumes to ensure adequate coverage. Upgrade equipment and facilities as permits, as budgets require, as budgets permit. Maintain a capital replacement plan to assist with the scheduling replacement of fleet vehicles, continue equipment replacement and upgrades, evaluate space needs and explore the expansion or retrofit of current facilities. Continue to foster and honor local mutual aid commitments. You got enough for everybody? Yeah.
Those who care, share.
Bring them on. Somebody will want one. I got some.
Thank you. I was thinking the banana.
I'll share it. You want?
I'm good.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, water. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. Okay. Goal 2, maintain and improve beach accesses, the delivery of sanitation services, drainage, and the continued maintenance of the town streets and facilities. continue to improve and expand recycling initiatives to divert waste from the landfill. Continue to resurface our roads on a priority basis. Annually update the condition assessment and paving plan. I think we do that. Plan for stormwater improvements and improve drainage and resiliency to storms and flooding. Monitor water quality in the town's lakes and ponds and oceans. Yep.
I'm seeing one kind of duplicate thing. I don't think we need to, I don't know if we need to reiterate 2B, resurfacing town streets. It is in the transportation section. So I mean,
Yeah.
I feel like we might just remove 2B and then change the goal to maintain and improve beach access, delivery, sanitation services, and drainage, or in the continued maintenance of town's facilities. So remove streets from that, just to, less word count is better.
Okay. Monitor water depths in the town's lakes and prepare for long-term dredging costs in the town's capital budget.
You know I have something to say about that.
Your turn.
Yeah. Well, we all know the town's lakes are really stormwater retention ponds. Most of us know the biggest ones, Dogwood and Elizabeth. I'm not gonna say never, but I've been watching for 22 years and I haven't been dredged yet. The town bought those lakes in 2001. At the same time, they executed a 70-30 maintenance agreement with Horry County. That's been 22 years with nothing happening, and even 30% of what it would cost to dredge those lakes is a lot of money. But I'd like to know why it isn't even in our 10-year plan or on our radar. If the county's obliged to pay 70% of it, we ought to at least be starting a piggy bank or have a goal such as start working with the county about how we can get this done. I know the county's gonna say they don't have any money either, but we've been 22 years with doing nothing, and I think it's at least time it got in the comp plan. It needs to be on the to-do list.
Do you happen to know the budget of what that costs?
A whole lot is all I know.
Yeah.
And John Adair is well aware that it needs doing it. In fact, remember I almost got thrown off the planning commission for mentioning that,
That, I wasn't kicking it.
but John's well aware, but there's never any money. It never even gets to the budget discussions.
Yeah.
It's such a large amount of money. And then we're gonna have the county saying they don't have the money either, but I think we at least ought to give it lip service on our 10-year plan.
Well, and I agree wholeheartedly, especially after 22 years and they've done really no maintenance. Those are 248s that come across that lake. And can you imagine the sediment that is built up from the west side coming through those pipes in the Lake Elizabeth and now in the Dogwood?
Capacity.
The capacity, years ago, we had a 5 mil stormwater tax. And it ran out. That's what we used to engineer most of what was done in the town was, from this figure tax, whatever you want to call
If you all have in your package this watershed map,
it. Yeah.
we're taking on water coming down Elizabeth and Dogwood all the way from over to the bypass. And the county is continuing to develop more and more and more. And I know Ian's surge was a bit of a freak, but that lake moved 100 feet towards the foundation of my house, 100 feet. And Ian wasn't even a bad storm, it was just a freaky surge. And I did a quick count, it's not about the residences necessarily, it's about the whole town, but there are over 80 residences that directly abut those two lakes. Some of us almost got flooded last time, and I know it's a capacity issue. I just think we ought to start at least acknowledging it. If anybody wants a copy of the 70-30 agreement with the county, I've got it.
May I ask a question?
Yes, sir.
Since you've done the research, are there other communities that have a similar issue along the coastline? And what do they do? Do they put in their budget dredging? I mean, I don't know
I would
what
imagine.
happens naturally or what, I mean, does it just fill up?
It's maintenance. And the reason it's the 70-30 agreement is because it was known even back in 2001, how much of the county's water we were taking on. Well, it seems to me in the last 22 years, we're
Taking on
taking
a lot
on even
more now.
more, a whole lot more of that water, and nobody's even looked. I bet you money that people on staff don't even know the agreement exists.
So back to the question, other communities that have lakes similar,
I
do
don't
they
know.
dredge? I mean, are there
I
other
don't know.
options? I have no idea. I'm just asking.
How else do you increase the capacity, or put the capacity back where it was?
Well, I mean, we
And not
did,
everybody holds it in lakes. So
Yeah, that's
we
true.
did dredge 5 of the lakes, Cherry,
The little ones,
yeah, Magnolia, Maple,
that's
yeah,
been
Floral, and, yeah, well, that was back 2002, 2003.
Yeah.
Just to increase the capacity. Yeah, I think the conversation needs to be had with the county, about their participation, get an estimate on what it would cost to dredge.
work up a plan with the county.
Work with them, absolutely. I mean, do a little bit each year.
Yeah.
We don't have to do it all at one time.
Or at least set some staffer to work figuring out how it's gonna, what it's gonna cost and how long, what it's gonna take.
Well, I mean, the biggest thing is just measuring the levels on that lake and then trying to get a clear estimate of how much sediment is built up from the bottom.
Well, you could do that with bathymetry, actually. It's the survey guys in my firm like do a lot of stuff at the coast, and they have a little remote control boat you take out there and like take sonar, so they can kind of map the
Okay.
bottom of
So-
a
I think
lake.
John has
So it's
probably
pretty
done
neat.
some of that.
So it's pretty, it's not as complicated as it was 22 years ago.
Yeah, I'm jealous of that guy's job.
Well, you know.
Playing with the boat, I understand.
Especially
It was
tonight,
a
right?
Coquina quarry, so it's got
Okay.
ups and downs, it's a mountain range.
All right, well, we can add that to the priority investment element.
Yeah.
You know, I think that
We need to at least acknowledge it.
makes sense.
Ain't going away.
It makes sense for it to at least be acknowledged, even if nothing happens with it. It does, it's part of the continuity of the planning for the town.
We
We've
should.
said it before, we change administrators, we change councils, we change planning commissions. If they don't have something to go by that shows what the plan has been and why, not just what it is, but why, and why, a good explanation, then there is no continuity. You forget that there's a prototype road on 14th Avenue South. You forget that, you know,
There's
it
a
just, nothing
2001
happens. It
agreement.
stops. There, you forget that there's a 2001 agreement.
We've had administrators come and go that probably never were aware of it.
Sure.
They weren't here long enough. Goal 3, provide for orderly expansion of public facilities, utilities, and other essential infrastructure. Secure utility and other drainage easements when needed during the subdivision or site review process. Ensure that zoning districts which permit high utility demand uses are located where capacities exist or where upgrades can be readily provided. Solicit input from the town's utility providers as part of the plan review process. And that could be something, I mean, I know this is, we're talking stormwater, but that could also be something we can talk to Santee Cooper about for the underground wiring. To the extent that practical and locate major utility infrastructures, i.e. water towers and substations in non-residential areas. Maintain and enforce standards for utility extensions and street construction. Consider long-term needs to the town's administration, public works, and potential expansion or relocation of existing facilities.
I'm gonna suggest one, consolidation of 3E and 3C. The big thing to mention there is just, town administration, public works department. I mean, there's some decisions on the horizon about, how to accommodate, future needs there. So that's what that last one's about. I don't think, there's a space study underway and that sort of thing. We don't know where it's gonna go, but that's what it's alluding to.
Okay. Go forward, provide active and passive recreational opportunities within the town. Encourage the location of passive recreational areas and public open spaces throughout the town. Support the upgrading of existing park facilities and the development of a parks and recreation master plan. Coordinate with the Surfside Sports Youth Association on programming and facility needs. Involve Surfside Beach residents in the identification of opportunities and needed improvements related to the town's facilities, infrastructure, and service. Continue to provide a forum to receive resident comments during town meetings. Develop a standardized system for collecting, reporting, and addressing resident comments, complaints, and suggestions. Establish a regular survey of residents and a separate survey that targets business owners. These could occur every 3 to 4 years and be utilized to update the comprehensive plan. Continue to use the citizens boards and advisory committees to provide input to the town council and administrator on major policy and public facility issues. Continue to use the town's website and social media platforms to inform residents of upcoming meetings, events, and town services. Any thoughts on community facilities? Okay. Good enough?
2 more left, y'all.
All right, we're getting there. All right. All right. Cultural resources. Goal number 1. Utilize cultural events and programs to celebrate the community of Surfside Beach. Organize cultural events and programs that fit in the family beach tradition of Surfside Beach. Develop programs to meet the interests of both children and older residents. Although Surfside Beach is oftentimes regarded as a seasonal community, access the potential of providing cultural event programming throughout the entire year. Engage the local business community in all special events and provide them the opportunity to sell and market their goods and services. Ensure all eligible entities are well aware of potential funding available through the accommodation tax fund. Okay. Goal 2, promote initiatives to research and preserve landmarks and historical education of the Surfside Beach area. Conduct an inventory of local structures that may qualify for the National Registry of Historic Places within the next 10 to 20 years. Identify sites that may be appropriate for recognition via the South Carolina Historical Marker Program. Identify community facilities such as Horry County Library to display rotating exhibits and galleries depicting local history. utilize the recently created Surfside Beach Historical Board to identify potential historic structures, noteworthy events and people, and other items of historical interest in Surfside Beach.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir.
So for strategy 2D, I think it's a society, not a board. And then on Go 1, I had a suggestion as well. Down at the bottom on 70, strategy 1E, it says ensure all eligible entities are well aware of potential funding available through the accommodations tax fund. But I believe hospitality tax fund also can be utilized for cultural items.
So should it read the accommodations?
And hospitality fund.
So the accommodations and hospitality fund?
Yes.
So remove tax,
Two separate funds.
hospitality funds then?
Well, it says tax
Accommodations and hospitality and accommodations tax funds.
Okay, yeah.
And another item, I mean, those funds can also be utilized for transportation. I know we didn't mention that in the transportation section, but those funds are eligible for tourist-related transportation improvements.
Typically goes into the capital replacement fund, police cars, beach vehicles.
Yeah.
John Deere's, yeah. Goal 3, promote the Surfside Beach Pier, beach,
Beach pier.
and its surrounding district as a major landmark for cultural and social activities in the community. Develop programs and community events to promote ongoing events even during the off-peak tourist season tailored for residents. Install information kiosks near the pier area with interpretive signage about Surfside Beach, directions to other sites in town, and promotion of upcoming events in Surfside Beach. Evaluate the need for improving wayfinding signage along 17 to direct motorists to the pier and other landmarks in Surfside Beach. Initiate a public art program with a Surfside Beach theme in and around the pier district. Great example in Surfside Beach is the building mural in the core commercial district on the corner of Surfside Drive and Poplar Drive. Okay, coordinate cultural event programming, marketing on both a local and regional level. Seek partnerships with nonprofit cultural arts organizations such as Long Bay Symphony and the Waccamaw Arts and Crafts Guild to host regular events in town. Work with other entities such as Horry County and the Myrtle Beach Chamber of Commerce to coordinate event calendars and list events on each other's respective websites. Any thoughts on cultural resources?
Goal 4, I don't know if y'all feel strongly about this, the first strategy there. I feel like the second strategy almost could go in the economic development section. But that could be an opportunity to kind of trim this, is move that second strategy, because I think you actually made the comment of add reference to the chamber in the economic development. So we could move 4B to economic development and just, get rid of the goal in 4A and 2 pages of shrink the plan if you wanted to do that.
I mean, I like strategy 4A myself. I mean, I know we talked a little bit about when we were doing the draft or talking about it, about promoting more arts and crafts and of course we have festivals and stuff like that, but I think it's a great way to attract folks here and just be unique as far as arts and crafts myself, so.
Well, we've identified, the property down on Willow and Third, and so we're kind of, got a historical society, so whatever we can do to
Yeah. I think originally there was a bid out to put like a gazebo as well, but, in that area at the Arc.
Yeah.
I do think you need formal parking then, even if it's just a couple spots
What's that?
at the Arc.
Yeah, that's true, but,
Not a big thing. All right, last one, y'all.
Last one before we start over.
we've come a long way.
Cherry said, not a chance.
Power went out.
Get a long drive.
Whoops.
Okay. Resiliency and natural resources.
So I can provide kind of a overview of this since it's kind of top of mind. So the first goal is about mitigating impacts of natural hazards. Maybe you can rest your voice a little bit, Sammy. Coordinate with Horry County on the all hazard mitigation plan. That's a regional plan that the town works with the county on and kind of documents coordination and hazards, recent and potential future hazards, that sort of thing. It's kind of a regional game plan. And then continue to upgrade and retrofit existing town infrastructure as funding permits. And then the bullet is use local funds, but also pursue federal and state grants to improve the resiliency. Things like roads and stormwater, either raising roads, improving drainage, stormwater assets. I mean, that's one thing that the town has been focused on, is improving some of the pipes on the outfalls and bridges down on Ocean Boulevard. So I think just continuing that. Working with neighboring communities, effectively coordinate evacuation plans, maintain and refine strategies to provide to residents and tourists for evacuation events. And then create a system to identify residents and workers in town and Surfside that may need transportation assistance during evacuation. That was a recommendation in the previous plan that we carried over. 1D, continue to provide educational opportunities to residents to improve resiliency against natural hazards. Using social media outlets to distribute messages on flood hazards and flood protection, drainage system, that kind of thing. That's something that's recommended. So that's kind of natural hazards. And then protect properties and structures from storms and flooding. Continue plan for beach nourishment activities to protect against storms. Continue to protect the town's dunes. Encourage their restoration. That should be just encourage, not encouraging. Encourage dune plantings to buffer from erosion and storms while increasing natural habitat. Considering developing a program to utilize decoration-free conifers as a natural way to provide coastal protection. And then management of floodplains. So this is participate in the National Flood Insurance Program, FEMA's community rating system to help reduce insurance rates, retain standards that require raised elevation and floodproofing for impacted structures, and ensure that town staff receive adequate training in floodplain management certification. And then continue to provide local enforcement of building codes to ensure construction meets coastal wind zone requirements.
Jay?
Yep.
In this next section, goal 3, I'd like to see if we can work that watershed map into that. All the maps so far have been the ocean coming in, and I think we need something to show people where the rest of the stormwater comes from.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Looks like there's room.
Yeah. Goal 3, maintain and improve stormwater and drainage. Consider the impact of stormwater runoff during the development review process. Ensure compliance with town stormwater ordinance. Continue enforcement and refinement of the ordinance, stormwater ordinance. And ordinances that prohibit littering and dumping. And that's one thing that, I asked John, like, what can we do one thing we can do to make sure that we keep water quality up. And he's like, you got to maintain the no dumping ordinance. That's the fundamental thing that makes it illegal to dump in water. So it's a small thing, it's a basic thing, but that's something that we need to make sure we keep doing.
What about the geese?
You gotta hire a collie, run them around every morning. Those things they make dogs that are trained to do that, but they're pretty expensive.
Yeah.
Continue the drainage maintenance program to clear debris and sand buildup. And then this is, also where we can potentially reiterate dredging. Encourage low impact development and the incorporation of green stormwater infrastructure and new development and public projects. So these are things like pervious pavement that allows for infiltration of stormwater, continue to limit the area of impervious surface, and also help with the infiltration, and require landscape buffers, break swales in large parking lots to reduce the impact of sheet flow. So there's little things you can do. It's not going to help you with a big storm. It's not going to help you with, overwash or that sort of thing, but it will help with kind of the everyday summer downpours and stuff like that. Goal 4, protect and conserve key natural assets. Here is where I think we're going to add a strategy about the beach. So we can add that there. Then for B would be enhance water quality and protection of the town's lakes, establish reasonable setbacks for structures, consider additional measures to improve water quality and reduce siltation. It could be an overlay of some sort that has riparian buffer requirements or incentives for voluntary plantings. 4B or 4C now, maintain and enhance the town's tree canopy. Here's where we talk about zoning standards to protect the town's specimen and significant trees, minimum tree plantings and retention thresholds, increasing enforcement staff's abilities to identify trees and species, and conducting a comprehensive inventory of landmark trees on public lands and tree rights of way. So we know what we have, not on private property, but on public property and rights of way on public lands. Ensure new public projects incorporate native plantings, continue town's participation in Tree City USA, and continue best practices in tree management, prevention, and considering utilizing green building techniques for new construction or retrofits of administrative and operational facilities. There we go.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so on page 82, just want to mention, I like how you said we don't want any more food lines, but it's listed as a critical infrastructure. So I appreciate that.
It is.
But also in this, we have listed a gas station here that is now closed. And then
What now?
the gas station here, we're next to the town hall location, that is now closed. It's not there anymore.
Okay.
And then you may need to adjust the town hall on the other side or something. Maybe, I don't know if you created the map or was program created it maybe.
AI.
But that's all. I just wanted to make sure that was updated. And I've never been to Foodie Mart, but I'm probably going to go. So I don't know what that is, but
You will be really interested.
really.
Delicious.
Okay, awesome.
Don't expect to go in there and eat.
Another thing on page 84, I love that you put the description and stuff about the community rating system. But I believe the CRS, I think there's like a chart or something that describes like the points and stuff. Not sure if you could implement that in here. But I have reviewed it before and it kind of tells you like what points affect the floodplain management more than others.
Oh, we got it in that box down there.
Where's that at?
Isn't it right below it? In that box.
Well, I mean, you explained that it takes a 25% and what a class 9, and we went from a class 9 to 5 or whatever. I understand all that, but I'm just saying, in the past, I did a lot of research around that community's rating system, and there's a chart that kind of explains what factors into that.
Okay, well, maybe we can add that, maybe instead of the picture, maybe we can have the chart instead. And we might have a little more room too, if we're gonna have the watershed map, so we'll have, move some stuff around, so we make room for it.
I'm not, are we sure that that rating hasn't changed?
I don't know if it went up. I thought it went up at one time, or maybe a possibility of going up if we
I'm
didn't.
not sure that the number that we have there is accurate, is it, Sherry?
I don't know.
Okay,
We might need to check on
I don't know if
that,
it's
Jake.
changed or not.
Think that it may have.
I know it had the potential when we didn't have a code official, I think. I don't know if it actually changed.
When you get your flood renewal, you'll see.
I do.
It went up. I don't know why. Your rating changed. Dust, you good?
I thought I had another one, but give me one second. But you can move on if somebody else has.
No, I was just gonna make a comment on page 76. I was interested in reading as far as how many acres we have in the 100-year flood zone and how many acres we have in the 500-year flood zone, percentage of flooding. So that's, that'd be interesting just to put online for people to see. You know, I thought it was interesting. I didn't know. And it says, properties built in certain areas, the AE and the VE have to be minimum of 3 foot off of what they call the base flood elevation. We said over here by 2050, our water levels will be 3 feet higher.
Well, we did look
So
at,
there's another 3 feet.
Yeah. Look at the ocean front.
Sea levels could rise between 2 to 3 feet by 2050.
There's that range.
and sometimes we include a, there's a really neat interactive map. NOAA has an interactive map that you can basically like see, where sea level rise will be. And some communities are really going to be impacted. We didn't include the map because you all are not going to be impacted too drastically. I mean, basically what it does is it will cause stormwater issues because it basically comes up to this outflows of the lake and will make things messy kind of at the bottom of the lake. But you all do have a relatively higher elevation than some other communities, like Garden City, for instance. If you go to that map and you show Garden City, they're going to be in a lot bigger issue than that. That's why we didn't kind of include that map or play it up, because it doesn't really show a lot.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir.
So just moving back, a few more edits. On page 2, when you're listing the planning commission, I think we should give Michael the title of vice chairman. And then I had a question around on page 12. I love that you utilize the post-it notes for the items, but in each one of these, I can't see them. So I don't know, I can't see what's written on the post-its. I don't know if we can make that a little larger. It looks like you have space.
Yeah, I can zoom in. I might have to get rid of one of them or something.
You may be able to just get one word that describes Surfside Beach and just make that bigger if possible.
Yeah, I can do that.
I have it black and white and the color, and it still can't be. It's not visible. So
Yeah, you have to be on your computer
You can see it online.
and zoom in, but we can make it a little bigger. I think we can make it visible.
And then on page 12, also, the steering committee, planning commission is, I'm sure you'll edit that, but the steering committee met how many times during the course of the plan development?
That's why they've got that in there, I'm sure.
On that Sunday.
Wait and see.
Yeah, and then I know you're taking care of the E district or whatever it ends up being, but I noted several in there, but I know you got it.
Okay, cool. All right.
You good, Dustin?
I definitely thank you for all the charts and stuff. You did pretty good with the percentages and everything. Thank you for taking care of that.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, ma'am.
And Jake, on page 77, where it's again talking about the community rating system, and it says that in 2022 is when our rating was changed so that we got the 25% discount. Just think, I mean, I don't know, that's true for them. I'm not sure that it's true for now. So, and I don't know if maybe that's just a good example of what can happen. I just don't, I'm not hot, we just need to check with Sabrina to see what our current rating is.
Yeah, it doesn't meet.
And I'm fine with, on this page, I'm absolutely fine with the way it reads because it says in 2022.
Okay.
I just want to make sure that we're not.
Okay. Yeah.
I think on that page it's absolutely fine. On 84 was the only one that doesn't say that that's what it was in 22. So and it may not have changed, but I think we just need to check to make sure because I thought that I heard that it had changed a little bit.
Okay. I'll ask.
Yes, sir.
Can we email Sabrina our list of our priority investments and congregate view and then go over those next month?
Great. Yeah.
Sounds good to me.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
I had a question about that too. Is it going to be provided a little sooner? Because I'm sure that's going to take a lot more time than reviewing this. Do we think we'll have that together? Are we going to create that in a meeting or?
Well, I mean, my plan was to use what you said now and emails that you send and put it together in like a table and have that ready. I mean, I could send that through email and y'all can kind of discuss it.
Okay, and we're talking about reviewing that next month? Is that?
You have it ready by next month?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I think that
Do you have all the estimates, construction estimates and everything too? It's getting late, I mean. But I think some of those, we probably could, to be honest with you. I mean, John could probably tell us in a matter of 10 minutes what it costs to pave 100 feet of sidewalk. So some of those things, I mean, I was joking a little bit with him, but I think some of those things, we might get some real cost in 30 days.
Tangible.
Yeah.
Ideas.
I just want it to be useful. I know we've talked about it in the past and we want to be and be able to accomplish something. So I just feel like that investment section will be very intense. So.
Well, I think that is very important too, that we have a barometer moving forward to, okay, did we do this? Did we complete this? Okay, if we didn't complete it this year, can we do it next year? You know, and the higher price ones, we go ahead and start planning for. So.
there's a lot of like little steps before you get to the big ticket item too.
Yeah, I know.
Make progress on.
All right, we'll move on to public comments. If y'all got any other thoughts, you can go have your commission.
Right there.
It ain't gonna be enough.
Somebody, yeah. Any public comments?
Real short.
Name and address.
Michael Walk. I did a lot of campaigning today.
I hear you.
Sean Fallon, 411 Cedar Drive North. When you talk about parking and educating the community with the wording and using the website or the Facebook, our town's website, Facebook, is terrible. If I have a hard time working 30 plus years with computers, with the government, I know the average person coming to town with 3 kids and everything that they take to the beach, it's not easy to read, so you might want to include that in your plans to say, to make it easy. Because I'm going to tell you right now, I drive around town and I see some of our parking, like Third North, is empty. But you've got people parking in front of people's houses on the side streets. Right, they don't wanna pay the money. So I just don't know how we're gonna fix that, but the main thing is if you want people to use an online source to find out where to park, you gotta make it easy for them. The second thing, just an FYI thing about the license plate reader. I worked for the FBI for 37 years, and that was one, we worked with the state police, retired state police that created that. That is a tool that all police departments use for tagging a license plate that was, a vehicle stolen. So when you're talking about trying to get data from that, it's an uphill road because there's a lot of issues with that. So just that's an FYI because of my background. And I thank you all, you guys do an incredible job. Thank you. Thanks for the work.
Harry Coleman, 10th Avenue North. I know it's late, I'm sorry, but I have one thing. And I mentioned this about 10 years ago to the then mayor. I don't know if it's under your purview. What's happening is what happened with me. I vacationed here, I bought a rental house, and then I retired and I came down and lived in that house. It's happening all over the place. I lived on 16 South. A lot of those houses were permanent residents. So what's gonna happen in the future? Those rental houses turn into permanent residents, and where does our revenue come from? It goes down. What are we gonna do? There's gotta be some kind, I don't know if you guys do it, or somebody has to plan or figure out what is going to happen when all those rental houses, or half of the rentals, just say half of the rental houses are no longer rentals. What are we gonna do? Where are we gonna get our revenue? Are we gonna extend the rental area? That's gonna be a really hard issue. Somebody's gotta figure this out. And I really, really wanna thank you. I don't think most people in town know how much work you put into this. I don't think a lot on the council even know about how much work committees, and especially this committee, does. So it's 3 hours and 15 minutes. And last time it was about the same amount of time. You put a lot of thought into it. You put a lot of research into it. And I really, really sincerely thank you, because this is what it's all about. Residents helping out the town and figuring out what our town is going to do. Thank you.
Thank you. Any commission comments?
I just want to say really quickly that,
Quickly.
oops. This is my bad ear. No, Jake, thank you so much for your flexibility and your patience and your guidance. It's challenging. There's a lot of input that people are really strongly believe in, and it's really wonderful that you're patiently addressing things. And you don't, get upset that we're, attacks of you. And so, it's a sign of character. So thank you. That's all I had to say. But I could say more.
Please don't. I'll make one comment. Diana King has the research on the 4% to 6% numbers and future projections. Matter of fact, I was gonna email the administrator in the morning and find out what that impact number is. I don't know exactly what it is, but I know she was working on calculations of 30% of the rental houses become permanent, and we've gone from 6 to 4, what kind of impact that has on our budget, our income, and all that. So maybe I can have a little bit more of that at the next meeting.
Let me tell you, Diane don't work for the town anymore, so.
I understand, but I'm sure the administrator can find it.
So
I'll talk to her and find out where
I'm
it is.
just telling you, she might not want to answer any questions.
She will for me.
Well, she might for you, but not on Clover's side.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so I just wanted to know, we talked a lot about getting cost and all that stuff, but if we look at the ordinance and the planning commission organization and rules of procedure, it states that the planning commission may appoint such employees and staff as it may deem necessary for its work and may make expenditures for fees for contracts with consultants and for the purpose of required equipment and supplies as appropriated for that person by the town council. So, I mean, we do have options in place to consult or seek consultants.
Okay. Good. Any other commission comments? Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Abstain?
Motion carried.
Harry said aye, so.
I just want to let you know,
Thank you for the water.
oh, you're welcome. Sean Fallon,